Seraphine had always been sure of two things: winning hearts and leading people. The scale of her ambition was huge, but she was ready for it. Today's fight mattered, but the future she glimpsed in this dimension mattered more. She also sensed how rich the mana was here, thick, abundant. But even that couldn't pull her mind from what this place could become. A light nudge on her shoulder brought her back. "Master, lost in the beauty of a mythic treasure?" Leon asked. She nodded, tucking her plans away. There would be time for that later. Right now, the duel came first. "Are you ready to fight your master for the first time, disciple?" "Yes." Leon stepped in, kissed her softly, and said, "Whatever happens, win or lose, remember that I love you." "I know." She kissed him back. "And nothing will change how I feel, no matter the outcome." The air between them tightened. Elsewhere in the time dimension, an ancient, white-eyed woman watched a silent screen. She couldn't hear them, only see. When Leon walked in with the purple-haired beauty on his arm, the watcher straightened, amused and curious. She'd expected flirtation, maybe more. Instead, after a single kiss, steel flashed. Leon drew an uncommon rank sword. Seraphine lifted a blade of the same rank, tuned to amplify her lightning. She could wield a spear, but swordplay was her strongest art. Both activated their mana body enhancement. Leon at adept rank, Seraphine at master rank. Their gazes locked. They vanished. Clang! Sparks burst as their swords met mid-dash. The watcher's mouth twitched. Entertainment was rare in this prison of a realm, and she'd been sure a romance was about to unfold. Instead, she got a duel. She sighed, half annoyed, half intrigued. "Hopeless," she muttered, and kept watching. Leon was surprised she'd met his power so cleanly. He'd gained 6 points across his physical stats in 9 months, fast by his master standards, and credited the orb's transformation. Even so, master rank enhancement was no joke. He held a 6 to 7 point edge on paper, yet they were even. Not quite even, she was faster. What kept him in it was constant spatial awareness, reading her angles and meeting them on time. He didn't switch to tricks. He stayed with the blade, using the pressure to fuse knowledge into reflex. Seraphine felt the shift too. At first he trailed. Now his form was syncing with hers. If this continued, his massive mana pool would tilt the field. Her eyes sharpened. Enough probing. Mid-clash, she triggered lightning steps, LV. 52, uncommon. A corona flashed. She blurred. Leon's spatial sense flared, and he slid back out of her blade's line. He thought he'd cleared it. A piercing force snapped from her tip and slammed into his chest, driving him back several meters. He landed hard, boots carving lines in the gray stone, then grinned. The real fight had finally started. Leon's boots screeched across the rock. Pain punched through his core, centered on a 2-inch hole in his abdomen. Scree, chunk. Ugh. He only grunted. He was used to pain after life element training in the dungeon. Before he could think, he felt her neck strike coming from behind. It was worse than the last. He did not risk it and blinked 10 meters away. ZZT boom. Life element flared and sealed the wound. What chilled him was the follow-through he would have taken. Seraphine's blade fell from above, wreathed in crazed lightning that screamed like a banshee. The ground split with a thunderous crack and a tight explosion. Shattered rock fanned out. A small crater at the center, veins of fractures racing outward like lightning frozen in stone. If he had eaten that, he would be bleeding deep. 2 more like it, and he would lose. Seeing her strike hit empty ground surprised her, then lit a fire in her eyes. That 2-part sequence usually ended fights or left foes helpless. Her opening thrust had proven his body was tough, so she had not expected it to be fatal, but it should have pinned him down. She had chained lightning step into skybreaker draw to finish it. He was still standing. Seraphine steadied. 10 meters away, Leon watched her watching him. His wounds were gone. She was not surprised. He had told her last night not to hold back. He could heal fatal injuries if his mana held. She had spent about 1/10 of her reserve. She did not rush in. She let mana recover and planned a harsher sequence, factoring in his half-second vanish. She only needed to be faster than that. Leon read the hunter in her gaze. One lesson was already clear. In a real fight, do not learn on the job. End it fast the way she intended to. Master, be ready, he said with a small smile. Do not worry. I will be good as new when I am done. I will end this quickly, Seraphine said. Then we go on our date. I do not enjoy fighting you. Her calm confidence pricked him, and it warmed him too. He shifted tactics. Silence stretched. Then Leon broke it with a barrage of lightning every quarter second. Zap, 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 zop. To slip that storm, Seraphine invoked Raijin Descent. Two jagged horns of lightning grew from her crown. CRRK Croc. Mana body enhancement surged. Lightning step carried her in flickers. Fwoosh. Boom. She became frighteningly fast. To Leon, she was a smear of motion. Spatial awareness traced her path anyway, and he flooded it with bolts. With his regeneration in this realm, he could cast almost without limit. Whenever she drew close, he blinked away. ZZT crash. The pattern was a trap. At this pace, she would drain dry in minutes while he barely perspired. She cannot allow it. She layered Lightning Aura, level 1, with Thunder Vein Pulse to feel the origin of each attack and cut the distance sooner, not just lean on speed. Aura cost less than techniques, but even so, she had maybe 2 minutes like this. Lightning crawled over her blade and skin. Pressure rolled off her. The horns crackled. Her master rank enhancement roared at full output. Crack, crack, crack. This was her strongest state. The air changed when her aura opened. Leon felt it and added ice. Long skewers hissed through the lanes she was about to take. Shine, whoosh, shhk. She slipped them as if she had blinked. Her speed was now beyond his comfort. He braided lightning and wind to boost his own movement and teleported before her next beat landed. Vum! As he vanished, her sword carved into where he had stood, scoring a deep trench in the stone. Clang! Crack! He would have lost an arm without that blink. With wind and lightning boosting his stride, he could keep dodging. In this form, he could not meet her head-on. A clean hit would end him. She tried everything. He escaped by hairs. 1 minute remained on her peak state. At this rate, she would collapse from mana exhaustion. She felt the loss coming and refused to accept it. She needed one opening. Just one. So she spoke instead of striking. Leon, are you going to run all day, or are you finally going to attack me?
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Leon, are you just going to run like this, or actually try to attack me? Leon looked at his master with a pale, deadpan expression. If his face could speak, it would clearly say, "Are you serious?" He knew exactly what she was trying, baiting him in close for one final decisive blow. But the setup was too cliché. He wasn't going to fall for it. "No, I'm not going to," he replied flatly. Seraphine had already expected him to reject her taunt. So, there was only one thing left to do now. "There's no point in continuing this, my dear disciple," she said, voice calm but tinged with defeat. "All my mana will be gone in 1 more minute. I can't even touch you. You've basically won. You can bombard me endlessly with your magic. I don't even know how long I could endure." She slowly sheathed her sword back into the scabbard at her waist. "Let's go on our date now. It seems Master lost today." Leon also began sheathing his blade, but mid-motion, her figure vanished. And in the next breath, she appeared right in front of him, fist cocked for a devastating blow in her final form. Fool! Leon didn't move. He stood perfectly still. Seraphine froze, literally. Her fist halted inches from his face. No matter how hard she struggled, she couldn't move an inch. He had been ready. He'd used spatial freeze, fueled by 200 mana, without hesitation. With his reverse mana pool and spatial awareness, he could predict exactly when she'd strike, especially with how head-on the move was. He didn't take chances. She was locked in place. Not even her aura could help her now. It had only been a second, but she understood clearly this was enough. The fight was over. She couldn't move. She couldn't resist. And he hadn't even broken a sweat. So this is the power of the space element, she thought. It all made sense now. His ability to teleport, to dodge every one of her blows despite not matching her in raw strength. She knew it was broken from the start, but experiencing it firsthand was something else entirely. Leon stepped forward and came face to face with her, his eyes meeting hers. Without a word, he leaned in and kissed her. Even then, he didn't release the freeze. "Master, you're so cute, trying to make me lower my guard. I didn't know you played tricks like that," Leon said with a teasing smile. Seraphine felt a flush of shame. This was supposed to be a lesson for him. One where, after winning, she could proudly remind him never to show his back to an opponent. But it seemed her clever disciple never gave her that chance to begin with. He whispered, "Master, let's go now. There's no point continuing. Let's just have our date." And with a small smile, he added, "Also, you really need to teach me all your techniques. I had no way to fight you head-on." He could have unleashed powerful attacks, like the condensed lightning spear, a slightly weaker version of the one that destroyed a mountain. But those were too dangerous. He didn't dare use them, not when her safety was at risk. Truthfully, Leon knew he could have ended this much faster, even without that. His regular attacks could have been made much stronger and far more relentless. But he held back, intentionally keeping their power just low enough for her to dodge in time. With 10 to 12 times her mana reserve, he was practically invisible in this battle. And the reason was simple. Even though he had warned her he would heal her if anything went wrong, he had never intended to hurt her in the first place. Seraphine slowly released her aura, her techniques, her skills, undoing everything. Seeing that, Leon finally lifted the space freeze. She looked at him quietly and said, "You didn't give it your all, did you?" He didn't respond right away, but seeing no point in denying it, he gave a small nod. He had done her wrong. She wanted a real fight. But how could he explain? In a real battle, against a deadly enemy, he wouldn't have hesitated. He would have frozen space and ended it in one move. "Why didn't you even attack me properly?" she pressed. "And don't say those onslaughts of elemental spells. They conveniently gave me half a second to dodge. You did that on purpose, didn't you? If the attacks had been just a little faster, a little stronger, I would have been done for. Leon, answer me. Could you have done it?" Leon met her eyes. This time, he answered clearly. "Yes." She nodded. "As expected. 10 times my mana, and such control over multiple elements. I knew I would lose." She looked quite stern, but in the next moment, her entire demeanor of interrogation and toughness melted away completely. She hugged his body tightly, wrapping her arms around his head as his face pressed against her soft breasts. "I knew my Leon was very strong," she giggled softly, but this master was really surprised. Don't worry. Master will teach you every single one of her techniques." Leon hummed in response, still face buried in her warmth. He felt genuinely relaxed. She didn't take the fight harshly. Even after losing, she just played it off like it was a routine Tuesday task. But then her tone shifted. She gently lifted his face, holding his cheeks as her eyes searched his deep, radiant, and full of something more. "But my disciple," her voice softened. "Master is still upset. I wasn't even able to see how strong my Leon really is." She had already lost completely the day she realized she couldn't live without him. This match was nothing compared to that. But still, as a teacher, she wanted to witness it, to see the true depth of his strength. It made her proud just thinking about it. Leon didn't panic. Instead, he calmly turned his head toward the deep crater in the distance, nearly 100 meters away, surrounded by massive rubble and shattered earth. He said, "See that place? There used to be a small mountain there." She blinked, following his gaze. "With my strongest attack, I destroyed it in one blow." She stared at the devastation. The rubble wasn't just scattered, it was obliterated. The crater alone looked like a wound carved into the earth by nature's wrath itself. A natural disaster wouldn't have looked out of place there. His tone shifted slightly, growing more serious. "I can create a slightly weaker version of that same attack, about 50% of its strength, even while dodging your strikes. He didn't finish. He let the unspoken truth settle between them. Seraphine imagined it clearly. That kind of attack on her during battle, there wouldn't have been anything left. Not a trace. Only now, after seeing it firsthand, did she truly realize just how terrifying a monster her beloved disciple really was. Seraphine to return. 10 minutes had passed, and she still wasn't back. He hadn't known his master could ever be this late. Then he saw her. Her figure appeared in the distance, and for a moment, Leon froze. Seraphine walked toward him with slow, graceful steps, dressed in a striking black dress that clung to her curves like midnight silk. The corset hugged her waist tightly, accentuating her figure, while lace-trimmed gloves and a jeweled choker added a gothic allure. Her long lavender hair cascaded freely behind her, catching the soft light as she moved. The deep slit in her dress revealed glimpses of her pale thighs, each step a quiet temptation. Her amethyst eyes stayed locked on him, half-lidded and unreadable, but undeniably focused. Wow, Master looked so beautiful. He had never seen his master in such a feminine dress in the past 3 years. But he had to admit, she looked absolutely gorgeous in it. Seraphine stopped in front of him. Her voice was calm, but inside, she was surprisingly nervous. "How is it, Leon?" He should have complimented her immediately. But as she stepped closer, even more radiant up close, he found himself briefly lost in her presence. "Seraphine, you look gorgeous. You should wear dresses like this more often." He had decided to not call her master for the day, as they going to be couples today. She giggled softly in response and wrapped her arm around his, leading him toward the carriage waiting outside. If my Leon likes it, then I'll wear these kinds of dresses more often, especially for you." As they exited the mansion, she led him to the carriage. Everyone who looked their way, even Kayla, who was in charge of the transport, paused in surprise at the commander's appearance. The market of Duskmore buzzed with life. Lanterns floated above cobbled streets, casting warm glows that danced across merchant stalls and crystal shop windows. The scent of roasted nuts, sweet manna confections, and enchanted herbs hung in the air. Amid the noise and motion, they stood out like a tale come to life. Seraphine, the cold and untouchable commander of Duskmore, walked beside a silver-haired young man, taller than her, his expression calm, his presence quietly commanding. Her arm was linked with his, dress flowing like woven starlight. He wore clean white, understated but regal. People whispered. The commander was on a date, but Seraphine didn't glance at them. She smiled, leading Leon through the heart of the city like the crowd didn't exist. She stopped at a small dessert stall known for its enchanted dusk blossom sweets, holding up 2 fingers. "2 of those," she said. Then she turned to Leon, soft-eyed. "They melt if you don't eat them quickly. Want me to feed you?" Leon blinked, amused. "I don't mind, Seraphine, but would you really do that in public?" He could see there were a lot of eyes on them. Without a word, she picked one up between her gloved fingers, leaned in, and placed it against his lips. "Eat," she whispered. He did. The sweetness burst across his tongue with a cool, floral chill. He wasn't sure what stunned him more, the flavor or the way she looked at him while he tasted it. Later, they walked hand in hand through a glasswork lane where enchanted chimes hung from floating rods between buildings. Each one played a faint melody as they passed beneath. Seraphine stopped at a music crystal vendor and lifted a tiny orb to Leon's ear. It played a soft, warm tune, gentle notes like falling petals. "I used to listen to this when I couldn't sleep," she murmured. Leon looked at her. "You still don't sleep easily?" "Not unless my disciple lets me hug him during the day." He said nothing, but gently squeezed her hand. They stopped by a street artist sketching couples with swift, practiced strokes. Seraphine paid him before Leon could protest and sat beside him on a low stone bench, resting her head on his shoulder. "You're enjoying this too much," Leon said, voice low. "I'm allowed to," she replied, not moving. "You're mine for the day." As night fell and the lanterns above shimmered brighter, they reached a bridge overlooking Duskmore's glowing river. The water glowed faintly from alchemical channels beneath its surface, casting luminous ripples in the dark. Seraphine leaned forward on the railing, watching their reflections shift on the water surface. Leon stepped behind her, arms gently circling her waist. "This is the first time I've seen you like this," he whispered against her ear. It was true. She often clung to him in passing, used him like a pillow, teased him in private. But this was different. This was Seraphine free. No rank, no pressure, just a woman who wanted to be seen, to be held. She leaned back into him, smiling. "Then you should make sure you remember it." His hands gripped her hips, fingers sinking in her waistline, pulling her closer as the heat between them grew thick and unbearable. His cock had already hardened painfully inside his pants, and now was pressing directly against her through the layers of their clothing, long, stiff, and unmistakably eager. She felt it, every inch. Her eyes fluttered open for a moment, a breathless smirk tugging at her lips, knowing she had made him so aroused so quickly, so big already. She rolled her hips slowly, deliberately, grinding against the length of his shaft trapped between them. The head of his cock throbbed right against her stomach, and through the thin fabric of her corset, she could feel it pulsing. Leon let out a low groan, one hand sliding up her back, the other cupping her ass beneath her lifted dress. He didn't speak, but his body did. Seraphine's breath grew heavier against his lips, but then, without a word, she pulled back. Leon looked at her, slightly dazed, but he didn't stop her as she slid off his lap and settled between his legs on the plush carriage seat. Her fingers moved to his belt with practiced ease, her eyes never leaving his. "Last time, I only felt it," she murmured, her voice low and eager. "This time, I want to see it." Leon said nothing. He simply leaned back, legs slightly parted as if giving her full permission. She undid the buckle, loosened the waistband, and tugged his pants open. Thump! His cock sprang free, thick, veined, fully erect, rising hard and heavy, and immediately smacking against her cheek from the sheer tension behind it. Her eyes widened. "See, this is real," she whispered, stunned. It wasn't just long, it was thick, girthy, and flushed a deep shade of red at the tip, already slick with pre-cum. 9 inches, and still pulsing like it had a heartbeat of its own. She stared, breath catching, lips parting slightly as she instinctively reached out to wrap her fingers around the base. It didn't even fit fully in one hand. "Leon, is this really supposed to enter me tonight?" He only smirked, watching her reaction with silent heat in his eyes. He reassured her. "Don't worry, Seraphine. I will make sure you will be fine if it happens." Seraphine showed a light smile, hearing his reassuring words. A lustful expression appeared on his face as he was really turned on by what she did. So until they reached the mansion, he was going to keep her busy. "Now, let's continue." Seraphine one had was already wrapped the base of his cock. Not fitting in her hands due to its thickness, he guided her other hand to hold his cocks. Seeing the sight of his master in front of him holding his cock with both hands with flushed face made him even more harder. "Now, started stroking it up and down using your hands," his voice low and steady. She nodded faintly, then began moving her hands in a slow rhythm, uncertain at first. Her strokes were awkward, clumsy even, but the earnestness in her touch made his breath catch. She watched intently, as if trying to read his every twitch and sigh, adjusting with every beat to better understand him. The occasional grunt coming from him as she stroked his dick gave her the confidence she needed. Moved of her hand become natural as she moved it open and down. Ugh! The pleasure started to build up for Leon as he didn't hold back on his grunt. However, it was still nowhere near enough to make him come. He instructed her again, but this time told her to suck on his 9-inch thick long cock, while at the same time stroking like she had been doing up until now. Seraphine was nervous at first as she felt it was too big to fit in her mouth, but she tried as Leon had told her. She swallowed the tip of his cock. There was pre-cum there, which gave her a sweet feeling in her mouth that she hadn't expected. She gulped it down. Seeing the scene, Leon couldn't hold back anymore and guided his hands to the back of her neck and started moving her up and down. She felt surprised at first, but followed his guidance while making sure not to use her teeth. Leon was gentle. He didn't push her mouth deep on his cock and stopped when he felt her resistance. Slurp, slurp, slurp. She couldn't even swallow half of his dick, but it didn't matter to Leon because he was feeling so much pleasure right now as his master's soft mouth was gobbling up on his cock along with her hand, which didn't remain still for a moment and stroked with intensity, making him experience a heavenly sensation he had never felt before. He didn't even need to guide her now, as she was doing everything on her own. His hands were holding her head just because it felt good. Her eyes were always on him, even while she sucked his dick, seeing how he was reacting, which he found very hot. Finally, after a while, his dick started throbbing. Leon was about to make her put her mouth away, but resisting his guidance, she continued, knowing what was coming. She remembered the taste of pre-cum she had tasted before, which she liked, and wanted to see how his actual cum would taste. Oh! With heavy breathing and a loud moan, Leon came in her mouth. He couldn't help but push her face forward due to the pleasure, making her swallow more than half of his cock. Spurt, spurt, spurt. In a spurt, his thick white semen entered her mouth, and feeling the taste even sweeter and more fragrant than before, she tried to swallow it all but couldn't. She knew it would leak out, but the sudden push of him made his cock hit deeper than before as the rest of his semen directly entered her mouth. Her teary eyes were locked onto his while it happened. Leon removed his grip from behind her head as he had seen her teary eyes. She backed right after removing her mouth away from his cock, and she started coughing. Witnessing how she was coughing, Leon caressed her cheek and asked her worriedly, "Are you feeling all right? I shouldn't have pushed you when in pleasure, but it was too good. I didn't even notice it." Seraphine, hearing his words, waved her hands off in the air and said in a light-hearted tone while licking the semen from the side of her mouth, "It's nothing, Leon. I was just caught by surprise. But didn't know you were that excited, making your master swallow your cum, that you didn't even give any warning." Her both hands tightened the grip around his cock, making him grunt in pleasure as his cock was sensitive right now. "Ugh, how naughty," she whispered. Leon's dick had gotten too hard by her lewd words and lustful ways. Even he started to feel a bit painful now. "This is still much time before we reach the mansion, so," Leon replied while lust filled his eyes, mystically looking into her amethyst eyes. He didn't even have to finish his word, and Seraphine started stroking his dick much faster than before, both her hands confidently gripping his cock. Slick, slick. Without even giving her any reminder of what she had to do, she moved on her own, but before trying to swallow his cock, she cutely licked off the semen from the tips of his cock and swallowed it again, as it tasted sweet and fragrant to her. Ugh, he had no choice but to grunt due to her sensual way of licking it off clean. After licking his dick clean, she swallowed the tip of his cock while her eyes locked into his, seeing how he was reacting to her. The pleasure from the constant stroking of his cock with intensity was already building it up, along with how she started moving her head up and down, gobbling almost half of it, making him moan in pleasure as wet, slurping sounds were being made in the moving carriage, which wasn't far from reaching its destination. Oh, slurp, slurp, slurp. Seeing how her violet hair was getting in the way, he moved his and put them to the side as her beautiful face sucked so passionately on his cock, which he found absolutely gorgeous. With both his hands, he held either side of her face gently, making sure hair doesn't get in her way as she sucks his dick hard. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Finally, after 15 minutes of intense stroking and her sucking his cock, as if it was a tasty treat to eat up, his cock bulged and started throbbing. She felt it too, but instead of slowing, she moved even faster, stroking intensity increased, and slurps became much faster than before. The pleasure he was feeling was out of this world right now, and as the intensity reached its peak with a loud moan, in spurts, his thick white semen shot into her warm and soft mouth. Ew, ugh. She tried to swallow all of his thick, sweet, and fragrant semen at once, but failed to do so once again. However, she didn't care as the rest of it dropped on her hand below, and she swallowed as much as she could. Plop. After his cock stopped releasing any more, with a plop sound, she took her mouth away and then focused on her hands, where the rest of the sweet white thing was, and licked it off clean. The sight couldn't help but make Leon even more aroused, as his master seemed too irresistible. If she behaved like this in such a natural manner, he would lose himself sooner or later. Leon noticed that they had just reached the mansion and had to get off now. He was about to pull his pants up and wear them properly. However, Seraphine's grip stopped him in his tracks. "Leon, you can't close it just yet." She didn't explain much and directly went to work and licked his whole cock completely clean, with no traces of his previous semen left on it. She gave him a sharp look and then said, "It's fine now. Let's go to your room." She paused as her hand moved to her panties through the cut of her dress on the sides, and it came after in a second, but not without being soaking wet. Her eyes filled with lust as she continued, "There is much more left for us to do tonight." _______. Both of them exited the carriage together. Keela, who was driving the carriage, tried to accompany her lady as usual, but was rejected by her and told to go back to her quarters, as she was done for the day. Kayla noticed the suspicious, flushed red faces of both her master and Leon. It even seemed like Leon's breathing was a bit erratic, but nothing too out of control to cause concern. She left as she was instructed by her lady without asking any questions, but the strange situation made her a bit skeptical of the situation. As she had her own thoughts forming now, she walked off. __________. Kayla wasn't able to notice that standing behind Seraphine, almost in a position where she wouldn't be able to see his crotch even a bit, Leon had a bit of a huge tent forming in his pants. Half of his dick was out from the top, only covered by his thin shirt. Anyone seeing the sight could guess what was happening to him. It was already past 11 p.m. Currently, all the staff and maids of the mansion were asleep, except for the guards stationed around the high walls surrounding the mansion like a fortress. There was no one to see them, as they both were currently going toward Leon's room. Seraphine was walking in front. He who had never deactivated his spatial awareness for a moment for 10 meters around them. Since that time, he had come out of the training last time with better control over the element, hadn't detected anyone around them. He couldn't help but use it all the time, as it had no effect on his mana reserve with a new reduced cost. He looked in front at her master walking ahead of him. Seeing her sexy ass swaying in front of him, flaunting its curves under the fabric of her dress, Leon didn't wait and grabbed hold of one of her ass cheeks with one hand, making Seraphine jerk back in surprise as his sudden touch made her leak even more. But then she ignored it as she let her lion do what he wanted, as they were moving toward his room with only one thought in mind. Leon was fondling her ass along the way and feel the mixture of tightness and mostly softness of it at the same time. Once they reached the craved designer white gate of his room, Seraphine opened it quickly. She was getting more and more aroused as he was playing her ass as he pleases. There was weird itch on her pussy along with soaking wetness, stopping by her panties from leaking thought her legs. She knew what she needed to remove the itch. Once inside, she pulled him to the other side and closed the door shut. Once inside, Seraphine closed the door with a quiet click. The room dimmed under the soft glow of enchanted wall lamps, casting golden shadows that danced across the white furniture and polished floor. Leon didn't have time to say anything. Her hand grabbed his, pulling him further inside, the door now sealed behind them. She turned, her lavender hair slipping over one shoulder, eyes warm with desire. Slowly, she stepped closer, her fingers brushing his chest, tracing the details on his shirt. The air around them felt heavy, charged with tension. They didn't speak. Seraphine leaned in, kissing him slowly, saying more with that kiss than words could. Their lips squelched gently with every movement. Her hand slid under his shirt, feeling his skin. Leon moved with her, gently pushing until the back of her legs touched the bed. He paused to tuck her hair behind her ear. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. She gave a small nod. "Yes, I'm sure." Then, she pulled him down with her. Leon kissed her passionately, their tongues sliding and entwining with wet smack sounds as their mouths worked hungrily. One hand cupped her breast, kneading the soft flesh. MF. Squish. He hadn't realized how much he missed this, how perfect she felt under his palm. Through her dress, he could feel her nipples hardened and pressing against the fabric. He traced slow circles around them, making Seraphine squirm beneath him with a soft gasp. After their kiss broke, Seraphine sat up quickly and stripped off his shirt, then pulled down his pants and underwear in one swift motion. Rustle, whip, thud. Now, completely naked, his cock stood hard and thick, twitching with anticipation. She was already too aroused to wait through slow teasing. Leon saw in her hazy, love-drunk eyes. She needed him. He reached for her dress and slowly pulled it down, unveiling her flawless white skin, her black-purple lingerie hugging her curves perfectly. He had expected battle scars, but her body was pristine. "You're gorgeous," he said honestly. Her lips curved into a shy, pleased smile. Her panties were soaked through, clinging to her slick folds, the fabric squelching as she shifted. She needed no more foreplay, but Leon wasn't ready to skip ahead, not without appreciating her body a little longer. He pulled her bra off with a soft snap, exposing her full breasts. She lay back on the bed, chest rising and falling, nipples perked flush from head to toe, her eyes filled with trust and want. Leon kissed down her chest, sucking on one nipple with a wet slurp, then the other. Seraphine moaned, her fingers gripping his hair tightly. "Moi, SLRP." He continued downward, kissing her stomach, then her thighs before tugging her panties off, schlick, and tossing them aside. Her wetness shimmered under the warm light, her folds glistening with arousal. He spread her legs gently and leaned in. The first lick was slow and deep. "Lick SLRP." Seraphine gasped. "Leon." His tongue flicked her clit, drawing a loud moan from her. "Slick SLRP." Her hips bucked, thighs trembling as he continued. The room filled with wet, lewd sounds, schlick, SLRP, slurp, as he ate her out with dedication. He sucked softly, then harder, teasing her clit with every stroke of his tongue. Her cries grew louder, her body shaking beneath him. Her hands gripped the sheets. Tug, crinkle. Her breath stuttered, and her thighs clenched around his head. "Leon." She gasped. "Let it go," he murmured into her, his voice sending vibrations through her core. Her orgasm hit hard. On. Her back arched as her climax rippled through her, hips bucking against his mouth. Squelch, squelch. He held her there, tongue still lapping, until her body finally relaxed. Leon rose slowly, lips glistening, eyes filled with desire. Seraphine looked dazed, her body flushed and still trembling. "That was intense," she said breathlessly. Leon couldn't wait anymore. His cock throbbed, leaking slightly. He moved up, lining himself against her soaked slit. His tip rubbed against her entrance, sliding through her wet folds with a slick schlick. "Tell me," he whispered. Seraphine met his eyes. "I want you. Now." He pushed forward slowly. SCHLCK. Schluck. The head slipped in, her walls stretching around him inch by inch. She gasped, nails digging into his back. Fuck. Leon groaned. She was so tight and warm. He felt resistance. Then, gently, he pushed forward, breaking through her barrier. "Chuck." She winced, but didn't say a word, only clung tighter to him. He paused, kissing her, holding her close, letting her adjust. Then, she gave a small nod. He moved again, sliding deeper. Schlick. SLRP slap. Leon began to move, slow, deep strokes that filled her completely, his hips rolling into hers with smooth, steady pressure. Slap, slap, schluck, slap. Each thrust was met with a slick, wet sound as her soaked pussy gripped him tightly. Her moans came softly at first, little gasps in his ear, but grew louder with every push inside her. Leon, deeper. Her voice trembled with every thrust. Her fingers raked down his back, legs wrapping around his waist, pulling him deeper with every roll of his hips. Her body clung to his, wet and hot, their skins slapping together with every motion. Slap. SLRP slap, smack. Leon groaned, his cock throbbing inside her. "You're so tight, so warm." Seraphine arched her back, breasts pressed against his chest, her nipples dragging against his skin with every movement. She was moaning constantly now. The sounds spilling out of her like she couldn't hold them in. Each time his cock drove deep, she cried out. Schlick, slap, schlick, slap. He picked up the pace, his thrust growing harder, faster. Smack, smack, smack. The bed creaked beneath them, rocking with the rhythm of their bodies. Her wetness dripped onto the sheets, squelching with every sharp push. Leon leaned in, biting softly at her neck, whispering in her ear, "You feel too good, I can't stop." "Didant, I don't want you to," she breathed, her voice breaking between moans. Her pussy tightened around him, her body reacting to every deep thrust. Slap, slap, SLRP, squelch. "You're taking me so well," he growled, gripping her waist tighter, slamming into her with hungry, desperate need. Her eyes rolled back slightly, mouth falling open, moans spilling uncontrollably. "NG Chach, Leon, it's too good." She trembled under him, her body tightening again, building toward another orgasm. And still, Leon didn't stop. He leaned up on his knees, grabbing her thighs and pushing them back, opening her more. He thrust in her deeper now. Schluck. Slap. Slap. His cock slamming into the softest part of her, making her scream with pleasure. Fuck. Yes, right there, ah. The wet sounds grew louder, messier, slap, squelch, squelch, slap, as a thick shaft pistoned in and out her slick, needy cunt. The room was filled with heat, moans, and the raw, wet rhythm of sex. Her body writhed beneath him, eyes half-lidded, drool at the corner of her lips from how lost she was in the pleasure. He grunted, fucking her harder now, faster, smack, 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 the pace brutal, relentless. "See coming," she cried, her whole body shaking as she reached again, her pussy tightening violently around him as she came for the second time. Only thing that fills her mind is that he loves her so much. Leon cursed under his breath, barely holding on. She felt like heaven, wet, tight, clenching around him like she never wanted to let go. "Seraphine, I'm close." Her hands reached up, pulling him into another deep kiss as her hips rocked against his. "Inside, do it inside," she moaned, breath hot against his lips. Leon released his thick white semen inside her pussy, knowing she won't pregnant as she had informed him beforehand, so he had no worry and let himself free. For a few more continuous hours, only the sound of wet, lewd slaps and loud moans filled the room, only ending when Seraphine passed out on her last orgasm due to pleasure and exhaustion. Then for the rest of the night, Leon and she slept while hugging each other's naked bodies. _________. Warm sunlight spilled through the curtains, brushing over Leon's bare chest. He stirred slightly, still half asleep, until a wave of wet, warm pleasure made his eyes twitch open. SLRP, GLCK, SLRRRP. He looked down, and there she was, Seraphine, under the sheets, nestled between his legs, her lavender hair tousled and falling over her shoulder as her lips worked on his cock. His eyes widened slightly at the sight. Her mouth stretched around the thick head, but even that was a struggle. Leon's cock was too big, 9 inches long and thick enough that she couldn't take him fully. Her lips wrapped around the top half, while her right hand worked the base, stroking what her mouth couldn't handle. GLCK, SLRP, gluck. Drool dripped down his shaft, pooling on his thighs as she bobbed her head slowly, carefully, moaning softly with each movement. Her tongue swirled under the tip, teasing the sensitive underside as her hand moved in perfect rhythm with her mouth. Leon groaned low in his throat, the sight and sensation hitting all at once. "Seraphine," he muttered, his voice raspy with sleep and pleasure. She looked up at him, eyes sultry and flushed with desire, her lips stretched tight around his thick girth. When he twitched in her mouth, she pulled back just a bit, pop, then dove down again, deeper this time, her hand twisting around the slick base as she worked to please him. SLRK, slop, GLCK, huh? Even without taking it all, her technique was intoxicating, wet, messy, and full of desire. Her left hand braced on his thigh for support as she quickened her pace, her mouth gliding up and down the top half, her fist stroking the rest, saliva stringing from her lips with every movement. "You're gonna make me come," Leon warned, groaning as his abs tensed. Seraphine moaned around his cock, not pulling away. If anything, she sucked harder, her lips sealing tight, her tongue pressing in all the right places. His hips jerked once. Then again, with a deep groan, Leon came, hot pulses shooting straight in her mouth. Seraphine kept going, swallowing each spurt with quiet gulp. Gulp? Gulp sounds, even as his cock twitched against her tongue. She didn't stop until the last drop had been drained, finally pulling off with a long, wet pop. She licked her lips and gave him a wicked little smile. "Morning." Leon just stared at her for a moment, chest rising and falling. "You couldn't even wait for breakfast?" Seraphine giggled, crawling up beside him. That was breakfast. Kayla was circling around the door of a room that was still closed. It had been more than 2 hours, and there were still no signs of someone coming outside. But she knew her lady and young Master Leon were inside, probably sleeping, but it was way past their usual wake-up routine. It was 10:30 a.m. As she opened the pocket watch, she took out her pocket. She didn't know what might have happened to both of them to stay up so late. Normally, she wouldn't have weird thoughts, but the suspicious last night scene when she left them alone, and more importantly, there had been rumors going around the mansion that Lady Seraphine and young Master Leon were lovers. A few of them had even seen them kissing each other, not a platonic kiss. There had to be some truth to the words, as without it, maids wouldn't dare make such assumptions. If they had really seen it, then her lady had likely allowed it, and all odds told her that something big had happened between them last night. But she had to see for herself to know if all of this was really true. Finally, after another 30 minutes of waiting, the door opened. It revealed the new young Master Leon, who was even taller than her lady, which still surprised Kayla a lot. Behind him was her lady, who was currently wearing young Master Leon's clothes. She was the one who brought him the clothes. She knew at first glance it was young Master Leon's clothes, and the slight looseness in some parts was also telling her that fact. Noticing both their slightly wet hair, she could tell they had taken a bath or shower. "Huh, Kayla, it's good you are here. Quickly prepare breakfast for us. I'm feeling quite hungry right now." She was about to leave to make the preparations. However, she stopped in her tracks, hearing her next commands. "And one more thing. Tell the maids to clean up Leon's room. It got quite messy last night. Make sure it's spotless." Words leaving her mouth made her even more suspicious. Knowing her personality, if those things really happened between them, she wouldn't try to hide it at all. If she had chosen a man, she would proudly announce it to the world. The outing yesterday. Messy room due to last night. Finally, the lingering scent she just picked up was coming from the room and even their clothes. No one had to tell her anything. Kayla knew her lady and young master's relation had gone beyond master and disciple or any type of familial bond. She really didn't know what to feel about this. She should have been happy, but the fact remained that young Master Leon, despite his appearance, was 10 in her eyes. But the moment of hesitation was gone the next instant. If it were the choice she had made, Kayla would follow it to the end. She also believed his mind was much more developed than any normal kid, and his appearance was already ______. Seraphine and Leon left to reach the dining hall, leaving Kayla in her spot. As she entered the room, the thick scent of sex and traces around made everything even more clear. She called the maids for cleanup and went to the kitchen to inform the chef to prepare breakfast. ______. Hee. Leon, your life element is magical. All the soreness from my body was gone now, completely, and I didn't even feel tired. Leon also felt the same way and nodded in confirmation to her praises, as it really felt like his life element was overpowered sometimes. Other than hunger, it could help him in any case besides attacking. But if he considered the lifesteal, it had a deadly attack too. After 10 minutes of waiting, breakfast was set. Once again, a feast made him salivate even more when he was so hungry right now. The breakfast consisted of honey-glazed pheasant with roasted figs, folded herb omelets filled with goat cheese and wild mushrooms, fresh rye, and sunflower loaves with berry preserves and clotted cream, blood orange tarts, vanilla-filled pastries, chilled citrus nectar, rich southern coffee, and a crystal bowl of pomegranate, pears, raspberries, and ice-glazed grapes. Eating such marvelous food every day made him feel like he was living the life. He couldn't help but appreciate it every time. The eating was lighthearted. They would occasionally banter with each other, and rarely, Seraphine would blush a little because of the mention of last night and how crazy she had been. Hearing directly from him made it a bit embarrassing for Seraphine, as this was the first time she had gone so much out of control. Her bearing was definitely not very proud yesterday. Mention of her passing out was the main trigger that would make her blush. But she was taking it quite composed with a light, rare blush, as next time she would show him who really had the upper hand. However, at the end of the breakfast, the atmosphere became thick, heavy silence between them, and both of them were looking into each other's eyes. Leon decided to break the silence. From the past atmosphere, both of them were assessing each other, and the reason for that was known to each. Who were they? Master. Why are they following us? Seraphine's eyes locked with his. Before answering him, she nodded in satisfaction, as she would be disappointed if he hadn't noticed the pests following them around on their lovely date, hiding in their dirty corners. Hee. As expected, my Leon noticed it too. I knew it, but first, why are you calling me Master even now? You can call me by my name, like yesterday. I'd love it too when you say my name. Leon was more curious about the people who were following them. There were not one or two, but many. He counted. There were 14 in total, in different little groups. Tracking their movement with all-seeing spatial awareness was child's play. Even without it, he would have noticed, but not to this level of detail. He concluded they were not together. There was not one person who was keeping an eye on his master, but many. It pissed him off quite a lot when he noticed it during the date, but he ignored it, seeing how Seraphine treated the rats as air. They didn't even exist to her, so he did the same and focused completely on her and her alone. As expected, my Leon noticed it too. I knew it, but first, why are you calling me Master even now? You can call me by my name, like yesterday. I'd love it when you say my name. I thought you liked it when I called you Master. If you really want me to stop calling. She stopped him midway. It's all right. You can also call me Master from time to time, as usual. I like the sound of it as much as you calling me by name. Oomph. So don't you dare think you can stop calling me Master, no matter how strong you become. Her voice sounded serious as she was telling him some law that shouldn't be broken. My master and her hopeless fetishes. Leon didn't mind it, so he agreed to her as he knew from the start that she wouldn't want him to stop calling her master. Her slip-up earlier had made her realize her desire, so she corrected herself. All right. You don't have to be so serious about this, especially when I'm asking about the people who were following us during our date. Don't you realize, my hopeless master, which is more important? Of course, my dear Leon, calling me master is more important. I have my priorities straight, and you think I'm hopeless? When we are alone at night, I would tax you for hurting my feelings. With a deadpan look, Seraphine replied, and at the end, lust was clearly visible on her face. Okay, whatever you want. You're going to pass out anyway, so now just tell me who those people were. Seraphine couldn't help but blush slightly, but she didn't look at all like a shy girl. Instead, her eyes were locked into his, as she had made a mental note to make him eat those words. To do that, she would do the same to him, giving him pleasure so high that he could pass out from exhaustion. Just you wait for the night, disciple. Master going to teach your big, thick monster a lesson it won't forget. But who was going to tell her the feat she was trying to achieve was almost impossible for an anomaly like Leon, who had even shocked an ancient being by beating his meat continuously for a day. Her tone didn't even change to a serious one, as she said in a casual note. A few are the people sent by the Duke's eldest son of the neighboring kingdom, the Kingdom of Champagne, who thinks he can own me, saying he will take me as his first wife, even announcing it to the world as if my opinion doesn't even matter in this regard. He thinks no one can stop him because their kingdom is the strongest. He is most likely waiting for the right moment. After a whole 15 minutes of details, she had finally finished. There was no trace of emotion other than disgust on her face when she told him everything. The only reason these people didn't directly make a move was that she was too strong for them to handle. But finding her weakness was a different matter, something they could take advantage of. Now he finally understood why he was never allowed to travel outside without her accompanying him during his past 3 years. He had just misunderstood her, but knowing about this even now made him feel her warmth once again, the care and love she had shown for the last 3 years, even when he wasn't appreciative of her at first. Her love was loud, unwavering, and unconditional, a devotion that endures even in the absence of his denial. But now he would make sure she would be happier than ever with him as his woman. His eyes turned to glint as even his aura began to leak out for the first time, as never had he ever felt this much anger in his life. The Duke's son of the strong kingdom on the lower domain, their own kingdom's youngest prince. These were the two who caused his anger the most, especially the Duke's eldest son, who had the guts to announce his Seraphine as his future wife in front of countless many. The youngest prince didn't have much power, but he also had eyes on his Seraphine, wanting her to join his harem. Caused by the chain reaction of these two highly influential people, the crown prince of the kingdom of Champagne also had his eyes on her for a different reason, to gain the support of the Duke's eldest son, who was likely going to take over the dukedom. The competition was so high that he even thought for a moment that 14 people seemed quite less, but considering the weak ones trying their hand at Seraphine, one way or another, to gain power or influence, would be crushed, so they didn't even try. And lastly, one of the wealthiest merchants of the lower domain who wanted her to be the face of his products and had been pestering her for months because of her popularity all over the lower kingdom. Not just because she was one of the strongest women in the lower domain, but because of the high-ranking individuals she attracted naturally. Do they think my Seraphine is a pawn or object they could control? I really want to erase all of them from existence. He could imagine why Seraphine couldn't do anything despite having the power to crush these pests individually. Master, I didn't know you were this famous here, but unfortunately for them, as you are now mine and mine alone, none can even think such things about you now, since you are mine forever. With a pause, his voice colder than ever. I really want to kill them. His eyes, which had a slight swirl in them, looked into her violet eyes. He knew his reaction was a bit intense, but it was his real feeling. For the first time in both his lives, he had found something so precious and warm that he could never give up on. And some people wanted to take that away from him, treating her as a toy. Never. Their death would be the least of their worries once he met them. Seraphine's eyes locked as an even more intense swirl appeared in her eyes. His words, his slight obsession with her, the anger he felt for her, and even wanting to mention killing them outright. The love that started to become just like hers. The anger that could burn everything for her. It made her feel euphoric all over her body. She even got wet. A wide smile spread across her beautiful face as she answered him. I love you so much, Leon. I knew you would be upset, which is why the master had prepared something special for you. A slight pause. Her voice sounded again with a grin on her beautiful face. Tomorrow we are going to depart for the kingdom of Champagne. Tomorrow we are going to depart for the kingdom of Champagne. Excitement filled Leon's eyes as he heard what she said. Kingdom of Champagne. They should be ready for what chaos he was going to bring there. But he didn't interrupt, as she seemed to have much to tell him. There is, as there always had been, every year a grand event organized by the Ascendant Academy to display the prowess of their students to the rest of the world. She paused for a moment as she continued, while completely focusing on his expression because she knew he was going to like this part. Ascendant Academy was not originally made by the Champagne Kingdom. From what I know, most of the staff and headmaster are from the middle domain, or it could be even higher, as you have broadened my horizon about this world the other day. The Academy was also the reason that the Champagne Kingdom had become the most powerful kingdom over the years, just because it is located in their capital city of Hemsburg. It is also the academy where I had attended for 4 years when I was much younger. They are mysterious and powerful. No one can mess with them. A grin appeared on her face as she continued the next part. We were only going there at first, because when I learned you had an affinity for all the elements, but didn't have proper knowledge and ideas about how they would work, I had thought it would be a great experience for you to witness the festival firsthand. Leon was listening quietly to everything she was telling him and seriously thought this was a big opportunity for him to see people with different affinities fighting each other. He would have massive growth in understanding his own elements. But there was one question in his mind. He asked her as the grin on her face told him she hadn't told him everything. Would the Duke's eldest son also be participating in the event? Is he also enrolled in the academy? Hee, my dear disciple, you've guessed correctly. While my intention when attending the festival with you was different at first, luckily, he is also a fourth-year student in the academy. The festival and the battles happening in them were not just for show. Many students even lost their lives in them. Your results would decide whether you would graduate from the academy or not. Getting a graduation degree from Ascendant is like proving your worth to the world and spreading your name far and wide, other than the golden life which was guaranteed afterward. Good, but would I be able to participate in the event? I am not a student of the academy, Seraphine said while another thought crossed her mind. No, you can't participate since you are not a student of the academy. Leon gave her a look. She told him everything, raising his expectations and mentioning that the bastard would be there too, only to say he can't participate in the event and would miss out on the chance to kill him without much unnecessary drama that can come along with the status. He thought for a moment. He was calm now. It doesn't matter either way, Master. His being just present was enough for me. I don't need the festival to deal with him. Oh, my disciple is going rogue for me. How cute. My Leon is the best. She decided to play with him a little, as for the full surprise she would give once they reached the academy. But my disciple, if you did as little as to draw his blood, the whole kingdom of Champagne would be your enemy. I don't think my cute disciple can handle an army in his current state. Leon smirked and replied to her. Don't worry, Master. I'm not stupid. Nobody would know how he disappeared. I am confident I can pull this off, so if the culprit is not even found, who are they going to attack with their army? I would make sure he dies in the academy. It would be more fun this way. Mysterious Ascendant Academy versus Strongest Kingdom. It would be interesting, wouldn't it? Seraphine was a bit surprised by how sly her disciple was. She had expected to hear him say something about killing him without anyone finding out, but turning the academy against the kingdom. That would create a war. Her spine tingled because of the rush of excitement she was feeling, and she also wholeheartedly believed he could pull this off with his overpowered space element and other elements. Should I just not tell him I have a way to let him take part in the event? Seraphine was seriously thinking whether she should let him do what he wanted. For now, she had no answer. She would think about this in her free time. It would be more of thinking to get the answer. For now, she had to enjoy this lovely moment where her Leon was thinking of starting wars for her. She couldn't wait for the night when she would let him know how touched she felt by his passionate love for her. Her hand traced his face gently. My dear Leon had gone rogue, but the master likes it very much. After finishing eating, they continued talking for much longer, as Leon wanted to know everything about the kingdom of Champagne, the academy, and the festival taking place, since he had to go through with his plan. While getting information from her master, who was clearly enjoying himself whenever he would ask another question. At the end, he had learned so much more about everything. And even the fact that the master was at the top of her academy festival 5 years ago, which meant there were at least 9 more people as strong as Seraphine in the public's eyes. As for the rest, there must be more, but he wasn't aware of them. He did ask her what she would rank herself among those 10 powerful people, but she said she was clueless as she wasn't much in contact with them. But she did say she would definitely be in the top 5 strongest people in the lower domain, not just those 10. The strongest people of the lower domain they were talking about, and knowing his master was so well-renowned made him feel proud of her. He learned it would take 7 to 10 days worth of journey to reach the capital city of Champagne, which meant for him 19 to 27 years in the dimensional space. He was in a train like never before, and once he reached the capital, he would make sure his name would bring terror to the whole of the kingdom of Champagne. He did say to Seraphine he would hide his identity, but that's only if he didn't have the power to face their so-called army. He would very much like their kingdom to know about his terror if possible, just like that bastard duke's son had announced Seraphine would be his wife, without giving any regard to her, and pestering her for years. I wonder if it would be a silent assassination or eradication of an army. It seems lifesteal would have a chance to shine much sooner than I anticipated. After the late breakfast, inside Leon's room, Leon and Seraphine are standing face to face with each other. In Leon's right hand, the dimensional hourglass was displaying its mysterious nature by floating on his hand, with black sand inside moving sideways, defying gravity. Sending a message: gravity is for the weak. Master, I want to try something. While we could go train inside the time dimension by entering it physically, that won't stop us from aging. It had its own perks of being the ability to comprehend elements much faster for me, yet the factor of not aging while getting slower progress was still much more appealing. Otherwise, during the time we would travel to the capital city of Champagne Kingdom, Hemsburg, we would become old. Seraphine gives him a nod, as it would make them 17 to 19 years older. They are human, even when reaching the level 10 apprentice rank. The most we can live is 200 at most, so nearly 20 years would be 1/10 of their lifespan. So you're telling me that I would also be able to enter the dimension space in conscious form like you? She inquired. Yes, you should be. The last time I entered it in physical form with you, I had a feeling that if I allowed it, you would be able to do the same as me and enter it using your consciousness only and not age at all while training for years. Seraphine's heart beats frantically just by the sound of it. It would be like a dream come true for her, having so much time to train while not worrying about dying of old age without ever advancing in your strength. The reason why she took such drastic measures 5 years ago, entering the Forbidden Mist, was that she didn't want her journey to end in this small place when there is a much wider place out there named the Middle Domain. People of the Middle Domain have longer lifespans than the Lower Domain, and have the power to act as a king in the Lower Domain. While she had no desire to settle in a small bubble, it was the truth nonetheless. Show me your hand, Leon asked. Seraphine did as she was told, but nervousness was quite visible on her face, as this would likely be a life-changing event for her and even determine whether the gap between them would increase. She was not the one who wanted to live like a burden to him, but like his proud woman who pulls her own weight, while she does have the desire to be spoiled from time to time. But being a burden, her pride wouldn't allow it, and she knew she had the potential to even reach a lesser divine, like he had told her earlier. She wanted to reach that realm of power, the lesser divine, where one doesn't have to worry about aging at all, an immortal existence. A life together with her Leon forever was her motivation now, not just stop at this small world of Valeria, and to go much, much further than just the so-called Middle Domain. He did notice the anxiousness on her face, but didn't say anything as he was 90% sure it would work. Without trying, he can't give her false hope. Holding her hand, he imagined giving her permission to enter the conscious world of the dimensional hourglass. Right after that, a tattoo of an hourglass replicating the one Leon was holding appeared on Seraphine's hand and disappeared right after, as if merging with her skin, leaving no trace of it on her spotless skin. Leon doesn't have to say anything now. He felt the crushing yet warm hug from his master on his body. Leon, I can feel it. With just a thought, I can enter the time dimension like before with only my consciousness. Her excitement was justified, as this ability was too broken. The connection she felt was through the soul. She felt she could enter the world from anywhere in the world, but she also felt that without his permission, it was impossible to enter, and his thought alone would be enough to kick her out, which she wasn't worried about in the least, but in her mind, countless new possibilities arose. She still hadn't told him about her ideas of building their empire inside the dimensional space, and this ability of the dimension treasure gave her confidence to a new, profound level. They didn't have to show it to them. For the most trusted people and for hiring strong individuals who wanted to move forward, this would be something they would risk their lives to get a chance to spend even a day inside the time dimension. Leon, do you feel you can give access to people without taking out the treasure? Hearing her question, he felt confused as he didn't think anyone other than Seraphine would allow anyone to enter his time dimension. But he still gave her a nod as he could use it while his treasure was in his inventory. So he was confident in his ability to give access to the dimension without actually taking it out. Why do you ask that, Master? Seraphine only giggled hearing his question, as she wasn't going to reveal her plan to him before she makes a much more thorough plan. A plan so foolproof that even her cautious Leon wouldn't be able to reject it. Our empire will be built soon. She doesn't think it would take much time because of the ability of the overpowered treasure itself. The empires that took thousands of years to establish their foundation would take them a mere year. It was too big an opportunity she couldn't miss. Leon put the treasure back in his inventory. There is still so much time before they depart for the kingdom of Champagne tomorrow. They have to train, sitting cross-legged face to face with each other. Master, just think about entering the dimension. It would work, and you have to teach me all your techniques. While he can't learn skills without the skill stone, techniques could be passed down to one another through teaching. Of course, my dear disciple, if the master doesn't teach you my own technique, how can I call myself your master? I will teach you everything. We have a lot of time. You should be easily able to learn all my techniques to at least a novice level at the very least before leaving tomorrow. She gave him a light kiss on his lips as she then tried to enter the dimension with her mind, sitting in her previous position. Leon felt that someone was trying to enter the dimension, and he gave his permission with his mind. Now seeing Seraphine's eyes closed, lost in her world, he knew she was inside, and he followed right afterward. What took you so long? Are you doing something naughty with your master's body when she was not aware? Master, have you forgotten where we are currently? I have entered the dimension a second after you. Now it finally clicked in her mind as to why, for the past 16 minutes, she had to wait for him, because it was only 1 second outside. This treasure truly is godly. She couldn't help but realize it once again. Inside the time dimension, Seraphine and Leon were right next to each other. Seraphine had asked him which technique of hers he wanted to learn first. She believes he can learn any, so she wants to give him the choice to start with whichever one he wants. She had also heard his request to teach him the lightning aura like she does, but she had decided to hold it off for now. Firstly, she wasn't exactly sure how to teach him. To her knowledge, she had learned all these techniques before getting aura, so he might gain something from them. Leon was currently looking at the status screen of his master, Seraphine. Character information. Name, Seraphine Vale. Level 10. Class, Lightning Knight B. Age, 25. Race, human. Cultivation, apprentice rank. Affinity, lightning, rank 5. Strength, 28. Agility, 31. Stamina, 29. Mana, 120. Intelligence, 17. Skills. Lightning Step, uncommon, level 52. Piercing Thrust, common, level 82. Storm Guard Stance, uncommon, level 46. Combat Insight, common, level 79. Electric Slash, common, level 67. Techniques. Mana Body Enhancement, common, master rank. Thunder Vein Pulse, uncommon, adept rank. Skybreaker Draw, uncommon, adept rank. Ragen's Descent, uncommon, adept rank. Concept. Lightning Aura, level 1. First, he rejected the Thunder Vein Pulse technique as he had his spatial awareness, a much better version of this skill. She described the skill as sending weak waves of lightning around to detect the area to get situational awareness when fighting. She did say it's very helpful when fighting multiple opponents, but in front of his spatial awareness with his intelligence stat, this is nothing. And the Skybreaker Draw isn't a technique that is of lightning element specifically, but just a quick, fast drawing technique for swords. But she mentioned that combined with her lightning slash skill, it's a very strong attack. Most won't even be able to dodge in her range. But he had decided to learn the Ragen's Descent technique first. Despite Skybreaker Draw also being a very good technique, he didn't specifically need a skill when he could use his element either to boost the techniques, a very versatile technique. Yet the two horns of lightning element during their fight, which made her much stronger and faster than before, were something that would really increase his fighting prowess to a new degree. Despite his stats being higher than hers, she was much stronger and faster just because of this technique. He wasn't able to fight her head-on. She did say her stats had an increase of 50% in adept rank, which she was currently on. This made him also remember about his two skills he had not given much focus. He would make sure to let them reach level 100 before reaching Hemsburg. Master, I would like to start with Ragen's Descent. She hummed in response. He finally made his choice, and she liked that he chose the best skill he could utilize most of his advantage with excess mana. Leon can see she was now standing face to face with him, very close. Her face was only inches away from his. He doesn't know what she was doing. She was supposed to teach him the technique. He even assumed his master was getting horny, as she does unexpected things from time to time. But he remembered that when it came to training, she was quite serious, so it might be just his imagination. Seraphine leaned in to give him a soft and passionate kiss on his lips, not using her tongue. She did want to, because she knew it was not the time for that. Leon felt he was proven wrong, but it felt good either way. But during the kiss, suddenly, a lot of information started entering his mind. Even a figure of a silhouette with two horns made of lightning appeared along with other information, like the mana flow of the body, etc. The level of mastery of the Shillette was on another level. Seraphine earlier looked like child's play compared to what he had seen. He absorbed all the information without feeling anything at all. Is your head hurting? You can rest for a bit. Everyone experiences this when techniques are being shared either through a person or technique scrolls, which are hundreds or even thousands of times rarer than skill stones of the same rank. She asked, Seraphine, I didn't feel any headache or discomfort. It must be because my intelligence stat is about 150. Leon answered. She nodded in understanding, as it definitely sounds possible. Getting so much information in such a small time can make people feel headaches and nausea, but in the worst-case scenario, leaving their brain crippled. She knew his stats were high, so she wasn't worried about transferring the knowledge of uncommon rank technique directly to him instead of teaching him personally. The information shared this way contains the knowledge of reaching the transcendent stage, which was the term Leon had told her about. Technique progression rank, initiate rank, apprentice rank, adept rank, master rank, grandmaster rank, transcendent rank. Never in her life had she even seen someone who had learned a technique fully, not even people from the middle domain. Master rank was the best she had seen. She had also reached master rank in mana body enhancement, and she knows how tough it is to reach it and how much time of continuous training it takes to achieve it. Their life feels too short to reach the transcendence rank. She could have had a chance only if she had focused on one single technique up to this point in her life. Even that wasn't guaranteed, but that wasn't practical in real life at all. Leon, now try to learn the technique. There was no better teacher than the essence of the technique I had sent to you. But if you feel stuck somewhere, your lovely master is always there to help you. After this last exchange of words, both of them got engrossed in their own training. Leon was trying to reach the initiate stage in Ragen's Descent, and Seraphine was also trying to reach the master's rank in the same technique. Reaching mastery in this technique would make her many times stronger. Only a day had passed. She looked at her disciple with shock on her face. Those two horns above his head, despite looking faint, are the same technique, Ragen's Descent, in its initial rank. She doesn't even know how to react now. It took her months to reach the initiate rank, and he had done so in only a day. She blinked and looked at the horns again and again. My Leon really is a monster in human skin. She didn't say anything to him as he was too engrossed in his training, so she left him be as both of them continued training. A month had passed inside the dimensional space. Something that Leon hadn't expected happened just now, as he looked at Seraphine, who was standing in front of him while one of her hands was clutching her head. Leon, I don't know what's happening, but I don't think I can stay in this place any longer. I feel like if I stayed any longer, something bad would happen. Also, the constant headache I was getting for the past 2 days has become unbearable now. It seems I have to take a break and then come back to train. I don't know how you can stay here continuously for even a year, but I don't think I can do the same thing. Her voice was low as she said those words. She wasn't upset, as not even an hour had passed outside, and she had made progress worth a month. It was almost unbelievable. Her Leon was a monster. She couldn't compare to his standard in the things he was able to accomplish. Still, training together was a nice feeling. Parting ways does make her upset, She gave him countless kisses and one long hug. Then her consciousness left the time dimension. Leon didn't try to convince her or anything. As from her words, he could tell it was serious, whatever she was experiencing. So he let her go. But the question was how come he didn't feel a thing for the years he had trained here? And there was one answer that came to his mind. It might be because of the time affinity he had. Seraphine doesn't have time affinity, which would have likely resulted in her consciousness being affected by the pressure of time on her soul when her body was in a constant state outside. He continued his training as he felt he would reach apprentice rank in a few more days. Seraphine, coming outside of the time dimension, could still feel the painful sensation on her head, but it was not increasing anymore. She felt as if she had stayed in the real world for an hour or two. She would be ready to go back again. So she left him inside the room and went to train to practice what she had learned. Even her control over the technique had increased in her mind, yet her body was still not accustomed to it. 3 months had passed inside the dimension space, and only after 1 week of Seraphine leaving, Leon had now reached the apprentice rank in Ragen's Descent and was moving closer to achieving the adept rank in this technique, which would be equal to reaching the same mastery as his master. He felt like his control over lightning affinity had helped him quite a lot in advancing this technique. In a month or two, he was confident that he would reach adept rank. About 2 hours have passed in the outside world. She still hasn't come back yet. He decided to give her 1 more hour. If she still doesn't come back, he will go and check on her recovery. But on the next day, Seraphine came back, which meant she had taken a break of exactly 2 hours outside. Just when she entered, she rushed toward him at full speed, and Leon opened up his arms. Both of them hugged each other for quite a long time. Seraphine knew he had been here for months. Despite for her, it was only 2 hours. His strong grip on her body made her aware of the fact that he missed her quite a lot. Let's do it, Leon. When she had spent her time in here training, it wasn't just training, as a lot of other stuff also happened, as she would suggest he take a break from time to time. To her, training constantly, without a break, not caring about the day, or even night, as they didn't exist here, still took a toll on her, as she was not used to it all. But Leon was like a training maniac. He never stopped. That didn't rest, and in seconds their magic would recover. But that doesn't mean it was easy to endure the continuous training. It also surprised her how real everything felt in here. Although they are just in a conscious form, she believed that Leon said it's their consciousness, and she wasn't too sure of that. They bleed, feel pain, pleasure, and every other thing just like outside. Despite the fact that they don't feel the need to eat, sleep, or rest, they can sleep, but they have no effect either way in terms of tiredness, which they get outside. The first time they did it here, it was just too real, no different than how it felt outside. He can even take things from the outside world in here despite being in conscious form through his inventory, which made her even more sure it was something different from what he now believed it to be. They have discussed this too, but none of them has any answer, so they moved on. Leon, hearing her words, agreed instantly, as he was craving for it quite a lot too. Are 18 ahead skippable? Seraphine stood at the foot of the bed Leon had just taken out, her fingers slipping under the straps of her dress. Without a word, she slid it down slowly, rustle, whip, letting the fabric fall to the floor. She stepped out of it, completely bare, her pale skin glowing in the warm light, curves smooth and inviting. She held his gaze the entire time. Then she turned and walked toward the bed, hips swaying with confidence, her hair cascading down her back. She climbed up and knelt on the mattress, looking over her shoulder with a sultry smile. Come here. Leon didn't need a second invitation. His clothes hit the floor in seconds. Thud, rustle, and his cock was already hard, thick, and ready. He moved onto the bed behind her, hands gripping her waist as he leaned in, pressing his cock against her soaked slit. You're really asking for it, he growled, his voice deep. I want it, she said, breath hot. I want all of it. He pushed forward with no hesitation, schlick, burying himself deep inside her in one smooth, hard thrust. Seraphine gasped, her body jerking from the sudden fullness. Slap, slap, slap. Leon's hips slammed into her ass, his cock pistoning in and out with powerful, relentless strokes. Her moans echoed through the room, high and breathless. Fuck. Leon. Yes, just like that. He grunted, grabbing her hair and pulling her back slightly, angling himself deeper. Her pussy clung to him, dripping wet, the room filled with the sound of wet slaps and gasps. Schlap. SLRK. Smack. Taking me so well. He growled against her ear, pounding in her harder. She cried out, fingers gripping the sheets. Her whole body shook with every thrust. I'm coming. Leon didn't slow down. He fucked her through it, watching her tremble, her walls clenching tightly around his cock. Schlick, slap, slap, squelch. Gonna come inside you, he groaned, slamming in her faster. Do it, she moaned, looking back at him with glazed eyes. Feel me, don't pull out. With a final deep thrust, slap, he came hard, burying himself to the hilt, his cock twitching inside her as he spilled deep. They continued for hours and only stopped when Seraphine passed out due to pleasure and woke up on the next instant due to the ability of time dimension. But they didn't continue onward. As their memory was still clear, the 3-day continuous sex they had was good, but it was like an endless cycle of pleasure that could trap them. So they had made an agreement that if one of them passed out, they would stop. Another month had passed inside the dimension space, and Leon had suddenly received another message from his system in the form of a shimmering, transparent golden screen. It didn't come as a surprise, as he had already expected it. Technique Ragen's Descent had been promoted to Adept rank. The horn made of lightning element energy was not faint anymore. It was a concentrated mass that pulsed with energy. Seraphine, witnessing the scene, didn't even know what to say to him anymore. In 5 months, he had learned the uncommon rank technique Ragen's Descent and reached Adept rank mastery on it. It took her years of effort to reach this level, but her Leon had done it in just 5 months. She was proud at the same time, terrified of knowing what kind of monster he would become in the future. By the time they would reach the capital city of the Kingdom of Champagne, he would be a completely different monster. She was excited for the day of the festival to come. It would be an exciting day. The only advantage she had was gone now. With his stats, he would be even stronger than her. Seeing him in the distance, punching large rocks, towering twice and thrice the size and shattering with just his punches alone, she knew he had surpassed her. She also remembered his body is unnaturally tough for a human. Boom, boom, boom. But she believed that when she reached the master rank, their strength would be around the same in physical terms. But it was still remaining that he could maintain that state for hours, while she could only for 10 minutes. The same feeling of pressure on her soul and headaches are present, but both of them go outside together as their bodies still get hungry. After grabbing a quick lunch together, Leon goes back to the training, while Seraphine still has to rest a bit more before going back into the dimension. In the meantime, she decided to practice her techniques. She knew she was reaching closer and closer to achieving master's rank in Ragen's Descent. She knew it wouldn't be long before she achieved it, and she was having quick improvement with the dimensional space because of its extraordinary effects. While Leon was once again inside the dimensional space, was practicing Ragen's Descent, hoping to make it reach master's rank at least. That wasn't all. While he would train the technique, his control over lightning affinity would also increase. This technique relies on making lightning energy strengthen one's body internally. Unlike the usual way he would create spells and attack, so he was hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. Seraphine came after 2.5 hours since entering, and the first thing they did was have their lovely intimate time for hours. They don't even know how many bedsheets they have messed since this morning. After the lovely time, they started the training. He did feel a bit of pity for Seraphine, who had to move back every month to recuperate, but he accepted that as there was nothing he could do about it. Yet one thing he did notice was that the time she was spending inside was increasing, even if only by a little amount, like an hour or so. Another month had passed now. Leon was feeling a few more months of practicing, and he would reach the master's rank. He had also noticed that Seraphine was just about to enter the master's rank, too, as the concentration of energy on her horns, made of lightning on her head, was definitely reaching close to the master's rank, which would give them 100% enhancement in physical prowess. Seraphine was in a dilemma. She felt like if she only practiced for an hour or two, she would reach master's rank, but that was about the amount of time she had left she could withstand in this space. But her choice was clear. For the next 2 hours, they did it with each other, as she couldn't just leave without giving him a parting gift from her, which she enjoys very much. Inside an unknown place in the time dimension, in the middle of a dim, fancy room, a silver screen floated in the air, glowing gently with magic. Its warm light flickered across the marble floor, and a bunch of velvet cushions were scattered around. A woman sat on a velvet throne, one leg hanging lazily over the armrest. Her glowing white eyes were locked on the screen, lips slightly parted, a faint smile curling up as she leaned in, resting her elbows on her knees, clearly enjoying the view. On the screen, her master, bare, powerful, flushed with lust, was driving himself into the gorgeous woman beneath him. The girl writhed in pleasure, moaning, nails clawing into the sheets as her body bounced beneath each sharp thrust. Slap, slap, squelch. The sound alone made the woman on the throne lick her lips. Oh yes, she whispered to herself, breath growing shallow. Deeper, master, show her how you ruin your lovers. Her eyes followed every movement, the slick grind of hips, the way his cock vanished into the girl's wet cunt, her breasts jiggling, mouth wide open in moaning ecstasy. Seraphine's thighs trembled, wrapped tight around him, begging silently for more. The white-eyed lady shifted, rubbing her thighs together as she let out a low, delighted hum. One hand slipped down slowly, fingers tracing the curve of her inner thigh as the screen showed Leon flipping Seraphine over, her back arched, ass high, his cock slamming into her from behind. Smack, smack, schlick. Oh God, she whispered, voice thick with heat. So primal. You fuck her like she's yours, like she's only yours. The screen showed Seraphine screaming as orgasm overtook her, her body shaking as Leon gripped her hips, pounding into her relentlessly. His voice was a low growl, his body dripping with sweat as he chased his own release. The watcher's fingers slid between her legs now, stroking slowly, rhythm matching what she saw. Slap, slap, squelch. She moaned softly, eyes wide with pleasure. Yes, come inside her, let me watch it, let me see her break. And as Leon groaned and thrust one final time, emptying himself into Seraphine, the white-eyed woman closed her eyes and came to, shuddering quietly, biting her lip to stifle the sound, basking in the afterglow of watching it all. The screen dimmed slightly, but she kept watching, already craving the next time. Such a perfect show, she whispered, still panting. And it's only the beginning. Seraphine left to recuperate while Leon continued training. Having those romantic moments in between kept him even more motivated. Another 3 months had passed now. 3 weeks ago, Leon got a message from the system, which he had expected, but when he tried his Rajan's Descent Master's rank, along with Mana Body Enhancement, which was still Adept rank. Technique Rajan's Descent has been promoted to Master rank. The power he had could only be called superhuman. When fighting Seraphine at the strength she had displayed at the end, which he couldn't handle at short range, it was more than that, at least 50% more. He knew the reason for it, as both Mana Body Enhancement and Rajan's Descent make one's base physical strength much stronger without anything else. So those 6 to 8 differences in his physical stats stacked up to make him much stronger than Seraphine. He also remembered the last time he did physical training continuously for months, adding to his daily routine how his strength, agility, and stamina each increased by 3. According to Seraphine, this was quite weird as he shouldn't have such an increase. But in the end, she nodded and said it's natural for someone like him. Otherwise, the difference in his and Seraphine's stats was only about 4 to 5 stats in physical because of his lower level. He opened his status screen. He hadn't checked his stats for quite a while as a golden transparent screen floated in front of him. Character information. Name, Leon. Level, 6. Class, Elemental Paragon, SSS. Age, 12. Soul age, 28. Race, human. Cultivation, apprentice rank. Affinity, all, rank 7. Strength, 36. Agility, 36. Stamina, 37. Mana, 1250. Intelligence, 150. Skills. King's Touch, Epic, Level 1. Lightning Bolt, Common, Level 1. Techniques. Mana Body Enhancement, Common, Adept rank. Ragen's Descent, Uncommon, Master rank. The first thing he noticed was his physical age, which was now 12, and soul age 28, which aligns with him spending almost 2 years inside the dimension in his physical form. Also, the stat increase of 3 in strength, agility, and stamina. Lastly, the new technique he had learned, Ragen's Descent Master rank. He felt quite satisfied with the improvement. Suddenly, Seraphine's body materialized only a few meters away from him. Seeing the expression of a bright smile on her face, he could guess something good might have happened, and knew what it was too. 2 horns made out of concentrated lightning element appeared on her head. In the next moment, her figure vanished as she was now standing in front of Leon, and the horns vanished completely. She didn't say anything and was standing in front of him with an expectant look on her face. Leon didn't understand anything at first, but one thing came to his mind as he brought his hand over her head and gave her some nice pats. Good job. Seraphine wasn't able to say anything. She was caught off guard by the pat, and even lost her composure and acted like a kid being praised, nuzzling into his pats. But once she realized what she had done, he put away his hand from her head, even when she clearly enjoyed it, and told him what she was actually waiting for him to do. Show me the same technique of yours. All right, Leon responded casually. In the next second, mana inside his body stirred and then got converted into lightning energy, following a set of pathways. It enhanced his body along with bright horns made of lightning element appearing on his head. Seraphine nodded, seeing the master rank technique same as hers. Just as I expected, my Leon is a true monster. She considered herself top-notch when it came to comprehending techniques. Among her peers, no one was near her level of comprehension, but in front of her disciple, she looked like a child. Now she felt confident. With both of them together, they would be able to traverse through the forbidden mist to enter the middle domain soon. With the help of his dimensional treasure, she knew she would be many times stronger than now, yet she couldn't guess how strong her disciple would be. With another kiss, she transferred 2 last techniques of hers without worrying about causing harm, because of the large amount of information, as his intelligence stat was a freaking 150. While she only had 17, which is also why most people don't rely on his way of fighting, where he would directly manipulate the element itself, as it is much harder to fight like that. The power of their spells would be close to nothing, along with the burden it puts on a person's mind. This is the reason skills and techniques are the way to go for normal people. She could also manipulate elements, but her attacks would be very weak compared to the use of her skills. Even trying to make the same result, it isn't worth it due to the toll it puts on a person's mind. But her Leon was an exception. With his unbelievably high intelligence and mana, he could do things that any normal awakener could never do. She glanced at the destroyed mountain once again. Not even level 10 apprentices can achieve that feat in a million years because they don't have that much firepower, and he did it at only level 6. The day continued on for both of them. All they did was train, and train, while occasionally intimate moments they would have for hours. Watched by a certain ancient being, without their knowledge, trapped somewhere inside the time dimension. The next morning, inside a luxurious carriage, Leon and Seraphine were sitting next to each other. Around the carriage was an entourage of 7 horses. On one of them was Kayla, who was taking the lead like a leader. She wasn't the personal carriage driver for her lady anymore, but a knight who had to reach their destination safely with her lady and young master. Seraphine was leaning onto her Leon, and her hand wrapped around his arm, making him intentionally feel her softness. Despite her romantic body language, her voice sounded quite plain and shocked. Can you really believe it? You have reached the master rank in your mana body enhancement, just like me. Your Ragen's Descent, which I just taught you yesterday, was also master rank, matching my new rank, which took me so much effort to reach. She paused for a while, her voice a bit grumpy. And lastly, you have also reached master rank in Skybreaker Draw Technique, which I'm still on adept rank. She knew she had less time than he, because she couldn't continuously stay in the time dimension like him, having only 1/3 of the time. But still counting the years taken to reach adept rank in the same technique, she was shocked. She had thought his growth was very quick, but surpassing her in her own technique in one day. That was just insane for her to believe. But the living example of it, her dear disciple, was here with a smug look on his handsome face. She couldn't help but say it outright this time. "You really are a monster, my dear disciple." The carriage started moving. It could take 6 to 7 days to reach the capital city of the Kingdom of Champagne. Seraphine was determined to become much stronger before reaching it. She knew her Leon would ensure chaos in the festival, and she didn't mind as she had been sick of being bound by kingdom law and politics, which wouldn't allow her to take care of some retarded noble heirs who think they own the world because of their noble birth. She had 6 years inside the time dimension, 1/3 of the time Leon had, but it was still quite a lot considering only 6 to 7 days would pass in the outside world. She was confident that by the time they reached there would be no one in this entire lower domain who would be able to take her on. Previously, she was at least one of the top 5 strongest people in the lower domain, but after this training, she would be confident to say she was the top. Ignoring the staff and headmaster of the Ascendant Academy, who never interfere with matters of the lower domain. She knew that at the festival, even if one student killed another, the Academy wouldn't say anything at all. Students would be protected inside the Academy from being harmed by others, but for animosity outside the Academy, they won't meddle even a little, no matter if they're students or not. "You really are a monster, my dear disciple." Leon, hearing his master calling him a monster, didn't know what to say to her, as she was just that surprised, and he understood where she was coming from. She wasn't annoyed or anything. She was just a bit grumpy about the fact that she got surpassed by her own disciple and her own techniques, but he knew how to make her happy, not just calm her down. He turned his head, leaning in, and gave her a nice, long, passionate kiss on her lips. He didn't stop and gave her a few more passionate kisses until he could see the hazy look in her eyes filled with lust. His voice was deep and low as he whispered in her ears. "Do you want me deep inside you, master, until you can't think straight?" Seraphine nodded eagerly as Leon whispered again. "All right, just for today, let's forget everything else. I'll have you all day long and make you feel things you've never felt before." A whole day, despite the fact that they have mutually agreed to not make use of dimensional space for pleasure. But hearing his expectation for the day made her very excited to imagine what's about to come. Both of them entered dimensional space at the same time. Leon took the king-size luxurious bed and masterfully undid all of Seraphine's clothes until down to the very last fabric of clothing on her, leaving her completely naked, lying her beautiful body on the bed. Taking off all his own clothes, he climbed onto the bed. Seraphine lay back on the silken sheets, her lavender hair fanned across the pillows, eyes half-lidded and breath already shallow. Her body was bare, her skin warm, flushed with anticipation. Leon stood at the edge of the bed, eyes fixed on her like a predator admiring its prey. He didn't say a word. Instead, he knelt on the bed, spreading her thighs slowly, trailing kisses from her knee inward. Her breath caught when his tongue slid across her folds. _Hlick, SLRP, teasing slow, deliberate. Her hands gripped the sheets as he licked her softly, letting her squirm, moan, and beg. "Leon, please." Her voice trembled, soaked in need. He didn't rush. His tongue circled her clit, then flicked it firmly. SLRP, flick, GLCK, making her hips jump. She was already dripping, her inner thighs slick with arousal. He sucked gently, savoring her taste, then pulled back, eyes dark and wild with intent. "You're ready," he growled. He climbed over her, kissed her deeply, and slid his cock inside her slowly. Thick, long, stretching her open as she arched beneath him. Her gasp was sharp, and then, slap, slap, schlick, he began to thrust, setting a deep, heavy rhythm. Their bodies moved in sync, her moans rising with every impact, each thrust pushing her closer to the edge. And he didn't stop. Not after the first time she came, screaming his name, body convulsing under him. He continued again and again, in different positions. Not after she passed out the first time. Her body was too overwhelmed to continue. Because the moment she collapsed, her breathing calmed, and then, as if by some spell woven into the very space, her body was restored as if nothing had happened, and she gasped awake. Her strength returned, her wetness renewed, and her eyes glazed with desire again. She looked at him with hunger in her eyes. Leon just grabbed her hips and flipped her over and started pounding her again, making her ass giggle with every thrust. Slap, 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 again, and again, and again. Time meant nothing. Hours passed, but the hunger didn't fade. He took her on her back, on her knees, straddling his lap, pressed against the pillow, sprawled across the ruined sheets. Her body never broke, but her voice did. Her moans grew hoarse, her legs trembled violently, and her nails left raw marks on his back and chest. Each time she passed out, the same thing happened. She came back to a renewed state, and he was already on top of her again, hard, ready, relentless. By 12 hours' time, the bedsheet was soaked in sweat, the scent of sex heavy in the air. Her body glistened, skin flushed red from constant pounding, yet she begged for more with nothing but lust in her eyes. Her throat couldn't form words anymore. Her mind was blank, flooded with nothing but heat and the stretch of him inside her. Leon fucked her like a man possessed. Schlap, SLRP, schlick, smack. When he finally slowed, hours deep into the time, she was barely able to move, her limbs weak, lips parted, eyes unfocused. And even then, he whispered against her ear, voice low and ragged, "I'm still not done." Right after those words left him, she was once again back to her previous state, and her eyes filled with endless lust and love. And the rhythm started again. After a whole day of continuous sex, Leon stooped, and Seraphine wasn't able to realize what was happening as she grabbed his cock once again, asking for more, but Leon had to give her a little shock of lightning energy to make her come back to her senses. He finds this treasure quite dangerous, as when having sex in here, no one had to worry about to rest, and they can do it endlessly, and pleasure was exactly the same. But he was confident in his ability to keep himself in control, but his master, she would go crazy and lost herself after third or fourth round. After coming back to her senses, they took a bath here, even while it was not their real body, yet the scent of sex and pleasure reeked too much from them. Inside the bathtub, Leon was hugging Seraphine's naked body from behind. His hard cock rested between her thighs, but none made any move because they had done more than enough. Seraphine also knew she can't just have sex for days in here like that, as today was just the exception and she had even lost herself in pleasure. Leon's voice sounded serious in her ears. "Seraphine, in terms of technique, I had surpassed you, but why is that? So that even then I had no clue how to learn lightning aura." Hearing his words, Seraphine was confused too, as even when she hadn't fought the terror of a monster inside the forbidden mist, her technique's ranks weren't even adept rank, and man enhancement was the only adept rank technique she had. She still had the feeling that she was reaching closer to an unknown power she couldn't fully grasp. But from Leon's words, he seemed completely clueless, which made Seraphine feel very strange. "That's strange. You should have the feeling of reaching an unknown power, like how I felt before grasping the lightning aura." Leon nodded to her words, as that was indeed very weird. He was exceptional at everything, yet he had yet to feel the slightest bit of feeling for reaching aura, as if it didn't even exist to him. But Seraphine wasn't the one to just leave this topic like this. She had to get to the bottom of why her genius disciple was struggling so much with aura. She would have been on the verge of achieving level 1 aura right now. She did know that she had gained her aura in a life-or-death battle, in desperate need. But even if that hadn't happened, in a few years, she would have achieved the unknown power called aura either way. "Don't worry, Leon. Your master will get to the bottom of this and find the actual problem. So you should tell me everything since you started learning elements for the first time until now. Explain every single detail to me." They had all the time in the world inside this space. She didn't mind if she had to listen to his story for a day or even a week. Finishing the bath, they were now sitting on luxurious wooden chairs with a circular table in between. On one end sat Seraphine, on the other Leon. Both of them had serious expressions on their faces. Seraphine had stored a lot of different things in her Leon's inventory, since the time she knew he could use those things here, even in his conscious form, and the chairs and table were only one of those things. For 12 hours straight, Leon explained to her which element he had started and how he learned it, and what the thought behind it was. Only after 6 hours of his explanation, Seraphine had completely pointed out what was the big mistake he was making, which was holding him back. She also felt surprised. Even with such a false mindset, he was able to achieve such results. She now realized how terrifying a rank 7 affinity actually was. If he had the right mindset, he would have at least twice or even thrice as much growth by now. He could even have already had aura in not one, but multiple elements. She felt good. She had this discussion with him, as even after the 6-hour point, she didn't stop him, as his methods were quite insightful to her. It was giving her so many ideas and also broadening her horizons. The training after this would be much more fruitful for her, not just for Leon. She knew it. Seeing the confident smug on her master's face, Leon knew she had pointed out what the problem was. He didn't ask her as her voice sounded. "How can you be so smart and dumb at the same time, my disciple?" Leon didn't know whether to feel good or bad, but he didn't interrupt as she continued. The smugness on her face didn't go away for a moment, as Seraphine felt like a real master who was imparting a valuable lesson to her disciple for the first time, which would give him massive growth, if the lesson itself was the very basic foundation of all magic. For 30 whole minutes, Seraphine had the smug look on her face, which Leon only found cute at this point, as she was really enjoying all of this. The more he listened to her, the more it sounded stupid at the same time true in his way of thinking. He knew the truth of the element to some degree because his scientific knowledge seemed almost illogical and stupid. After giving her explanation, which changed his whole point of view about elements, she asked one question to let him see how stupid his logic was. "Disciple, let us assume for a moment that the nonsense you spoke, drawn from your former world's understanding of lightning, holds some truth. That is the essence of the element, defined by science and form. Then tell me this. If your so-called truth is absolute, why can I summon the same lightning with a mere thread of mana, without knowing a single thing about the complex principles you spoke of?" Leon had no answer to that, and realized how against his thinking was to the core of the world of magic and mana. Mana and the elements are profound. They aren't things you could define so easily. Thinking you've understood them with just scraps of knowledge, that's not understanding. That's just arrogant and plain stupid. Your mindset must reach toward the unknown. Do not be shackled by the shallow certainty of your past. It's a weight that stifles growth. Treat mana and the elements as limitless. You are treading into the unknown, and that must be your starting point. The only reason you have reached such a level of control on elements with that mindset was due to your overwhelming talent and your experimenting with elements, which boosted your growth. Leon looked deep in her eyes and said, "Thank you, Master." After hearing her words and realizing how wrong his approach had been, he felt free, and he had now thrown off those logical reasons of the previous world that were just binding him. He could use them to fuel his curiosity and get different ideas, but in this world of magic, that scientific knowledge might just be a speck of dust in this universe where godly beings reside. Seraphine, hearing his words, just waved her hand as that was her duty as his master and family. But it felt nice that she was able to give this basic yet fundamental knowledge. She knew once they reached the Hemsberg, her Leon would be even more terrifying than she had anticipated, as this small yet fundamental change in his point of view was going to make his training many times more effective. After the change in his fundamental beliefs about mana and elements, or rather, the whole magical world, slowly but surely, the rate at which his control over the elements increased. Not instantly, but he saw only little changes over time, which made his belief even stronger over the past year. Realizing what was correct and fully believing in that fact, leaving behind his previous beliefs, was a different matter, and it took a year to fully change his core understanding of mana, elements, and magic, which made the speed of learning elements many times faster. And the feeling of an unknown power drawing closer as he made progress in the elements was getting stronger and stronger, especially in his lightning element, which he had the most control over among all the elements. He knew the unknown power was the concept of elements, the first level of which was aura, which he was about to reach in the lightning element. That wasn't all, as over the last year he had focused on practicing his Rajan's descent, hoping to bring it to the Grandmaster level, and it felt like he would reach that level in a few weeks. His control over the lightning element was now 3 times stronger than before compared to the other elements. He could reach the limit of controlling 1,000 mana in the lightning element, but he had never truly launched an attack with it. He had only created a huge, towering spear and canceled it right after. But this was now his strongest attack, and the devastation it would cause would be many times stronger than the one he used to destroy the small mountain. That wasn't all. With all the other elements, using 700 mana at the same time was now possible. The only reason he couldn't reach 1,000, same as the lightning element, was due to his control over those elements, not because of mental pressure. Another 2 months had passed. Leon was standing in front of a large mountain, using Rajan's descent technique. The horn made of lightning was pulsating with intense energy as he punched the gigantic mountain, 200 meters tall, in front of which he looked like an ant. Every punch made the ground beneath him tremble with the shock. Small craters, 5 meters wide and 1 meter deep, were being imprinted on the surface with each punch. Boom, 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 more. He continued, pouring every ounce of his power into every attack, while completely focused on maintaining the circulation of the lightning element within his body. Suddenly, the horn on top of his head burst into lightning particles and entered his body. His eyes gleamed with excitement as he saw the message floating in front of him. He ignored it completely and continued punching. Boom, boom, boom. Now, instead of the horn, only faint lightning crackled all over his body, thin as threads of silk, but the color of the lightning was no longer glowing yellow. It had reached a hue closer to gold. Another punch. The devastation it caused was many times stronger than before. Instead of 5-meter craters, the surface was now marked with ones closer to 20 meters wide and 3 meters deep. The tremors it caused to the surrounding area were even greater. Small rocks shook and floated in the air with every punch. Seraphine, from a distance of 50 meters, could clearly hear the loud, booming sound. She realized that he had reached the Grandmaster level in Rajan's descent. She had thought it would take him at least 2 years to achieve that, but the growth he had experienced from a single fundamental realization was far more than she had imagined. And she knew reaching Grandmaster in another technique would take even less time, as he had told her 2 months ago that he had completely overcome his beliefs from the previous world, and there was nothing holding him back anymore. So these past 1 year and 2 months were not uniform. His speed had only reached its peak in the last 2 months. Seraphine had just achieved master rank in the Skybreaker draw technique 2 days ago, and now she was aiming to reach Grandmaster level in her mana body enhancement. She knew it would take years to achieve this. She just hoped that by the time her 6-year period was over, which meant 18 years for Leon, she would have reached the Grandmaster level of mastery. It would definitely make her twice, or even thrice, as strong. It was the most fundamental technique that required no skill scroll to learn, as it would automatically appear in your system once you learned to control mana. People called it a gift of the system. She believed it was the best choice for her to train this, as it would also improve her mana control, allowing her to spend less mana on her techniques and skills. She didn't think she needed to advise her disciple, as with the rate of his progress, he had so much time that he would definitely attain Grandmaster level in mana body enhancement too. She was excited for the day they would reach the kingdom of Champagne. She even felt now that her disciple might actually take on an army by the time they reached there, as his strength was increasing at a terrifying pace. Her shock didn't end there. Suddenly, she felt a familiar energy coming from the direction where Leon was training. She recognized it immediately. Aura. She hadn't felt the increase in sound from the devastating punches he had been landing on the poor mountain for days, but she knew that reality up close would be much different. Suddenly, a faint yellow, mysterious aura appeared around his hands, only covering his fists. He recognized it as the first level without even needing to read the message from his system. But unlike his master, who could cover her entire body and weapon with aura, and whose intensity was many times stronger, his was limited. He punched again, maintaining his aura with full force, while Rajan's descent remained continuously active. The result made his eyes widen in shock, as the difference was immense. A thought crossed his mind. If Seraphine had managed to catch him that day, he would have had no chance of stopping her attack, no matter how much mana he had poured into his ice element. Now he believed it was only because of his space element that he was able to stop her. He realized how overpowered the space element actually was. It could render even aura useless if he had enough mana, as he had used 3 times more total mana than she had to make her completely immovable. Leon looked at the 10-meter deep hole in front of him, which had an entrance 20 meters wide. It was caused by his full power strike using his Rajan's Descent Grandmaster rank, Mana Body Enhancement, which was always active at Master's rank, and his aura around his fist, which he had just grasped. I built a tunnel with a single punch. Despite the fact that he wasn't practicing Mana Body Enhancement, focusing on increasing its rank, it still made quite a lot of improvement just by being used all this while he was focusing on reaching Grandmaster rank in Rajan's Descent. He could feel it now. Rajan's Descent was now making his physical capabilities thrice as strong, a massive boost. With his master's rank mana enhancement, along with Rajan's Descent and aura, he had become a terrifying existence. He thought he could bring down the mountain in front of him just by punching alone. Because of how big the damage a single punch alone caused, his single punch could obliterate any level 10 apprentice rank in the lower domain. That's what he believed. If it was true or not, he would find that out later. Even then, he wasn't stopping now. Once his training was over, he would become very strong, and he was excited for that. He continued the training, moving on to the Skybreak draw technique. As for Mana Body Enhancement, he was keeping on all the time. Even if the progress was slow because of not giving it the focus, it was still there. Another year had passed inside. The previous mountain was completely gone now, as he was now standing in front of another mountain, which was 400 meters tall, twice the size of the previous one. In his hand was his uncommon rank blade. Leon was just standing still in place on the mountain, where no markings were present, unlike the other sides, where deep slashes were present. He had just reached the Grandmaster rank in Skybreaker Draw, and he was ready to test out its power. He had even learned to make his aura form around his blade, as his understanding of lightning aura increased. He could also cover some parts of his body, like arms and legs, but not the whole body, just yet. He was in his strongest state right now. Rajan's Descent was active, as thin strands of golden lightning made ripples around his body. Mana Body Enhancement, while showing no effect on the outside, had been making him many times stronger from the inside. He was calm as he gazed at the tall mountain in front of him, his one hand always on the sheathed sword, his small frame like an ant in front of the towering mountain. Taking a deep breath, the mana inside his body stirred. In a flash, he drew his blade out of its sheath to slash at the mountain with full strength. In between, a yellow lightning aura formed around the blade before the attack connected. The Skybreaker Draw doesn't have any flashy moves like Rajan's Descent, just a simple draw, which is a strong and lightning-fast attack. The vertical slash connected to the mountain started slicing the rocky surface of the mountain like butter. A half-meter-wide slash appeared on the mountain, reaching almost 200 meters deep, half its length. Only then did it stop. All of this happened in less than a millisecond. Leon looked at the attack, which almost cut this big mountain in half. This attack was very strong. In his strongest form, without the Skybreaker Draw, he could never hope to achieve such deadly results unless he used too much of his mana to attack with concentrated force. But its mana cost will be high. unlike the technique, which was very cost-effective. Even as the technique's rank increased, a bit more mana was required to use it. Still, he could maintain his state for hours, considering his super-fast mana recovery. If I only had Grandmaster rank mana body enhancement, I would have been able to cut the mountain in half with one swing. He looked at the sword in his hand, which crumbled after the last attack. It lasted longer than he had anticipated. But Leon wasn't worried, as he took out a sword from his inventory, which looked nothing more than a fancy sword. He caught it with one hand. It appeared with a quiet flash, long, sharp, and dangerously sleek. A matte black blade in a dark sheath, with a polished silver handle that looked like it came from a noble's collection. It was the blade of convenient sharpness, the epic rank sword. Leon was able to lift it when he had reached Grandmaster rank in Rajan's Descent. Along with the help of mana body enhancement, he could lift it, but it felt quite heavy. For wielding, he would get tired quite quickly while using it. But he knew that when he reached Grandmaster rank in mana body enhancement, he would be able to wield it much more easily. He hoisted it around his waist to use the Skybreaker draw. He could do so while drawing it from his hands, but this posture was easier for him because of the sword's weight. It was still too heavy. He thought he would be able to wield it for 5 minutes. It was the first time he was trying out this sword. Leon was excited, and he could also feel the excitement coming through the blade itself, through the connection he had formed since the last time he had lifted it up with his one hand. It cut his hand despite being only in its sheath and absorbed his blood. Since that time, he could feel a strong connection with the blade through his soul and felt every emotion it felt. Unlike previously, when it showed emotion by trying to put pressure on his body somehow. Leon was in the same place. He took a deep breath, as this time he had to push himself to the limit to make the slash. Another slash happened as his hand moved lightning fast, using his full strength, using Skybreaker draw. This time, it was a horizontal slash, not a vertical slash. After making the slash, his hand nearly rotated itself due to the momentum and weight of the sword. He barely stopped it, and then he looked at the sight in front of him, which made his entire body shudder. A mountain that was once standing tall and majestic now had a meter-wide slash from its very top to bottom, splitting the whole mountain in half with a deep, thunderous crack. He could even cross the mountain if he wanted. It reminded him of certain mythological stories about making a path in the sea, but he had done so with a mountain in a single strike. He even felt little to no resistance when the strike connected to the rocky mountain surface, unlike the time when he would use the uncommonly ranked sword. He even felt that if there was something else behind the mountain instead of nothing, it would have also gotten the brunt of the attack. Seraphine, watching at a distance, seeing the mountain split by a clean cut like a single sword strike, had her mouth hang open, as it didn't even look like it could be done by a human. As it was the first time for her, she had seen such unfathomable power. She knew now the Forbidden Mist wouldn't be able to stop Leon at all. After the festival ended, she had decided there was no point in staying in this lower domain any longer. They would depart for the middle domain. For Leon, it had been 2 years and 3 months, but for her, it had only been 9 months. It would still take her much more time to reach Grandmaster level in mana body enhancement. And that was not all, as she was regularly training her level 1 aura, which was also showing slow but steady progress. If she reached level 2 in her aura, she knew she would be able to hold on her own easily. Not at the level of her monstrous disciple, but she would be quite strong. She was quite happy at the rate at which she was making progress. She had already given up on comparing herself to Leon now. The sight of such a tall mountain split in two by his sword strike only made her see him with pride and reverence. 7 days had passed in the outside world. Leon had spent a total of 18 years inside the dimensional space just for training. It could have been 19 years, but they had to come out of the dimension space for food and other basic needs. Also, in between every week, they would have romantic sessions together. The door of the carriage opened suddenly with a sharp clack, making both Leon and Seraphine open their eyes. Having been inside, they could detect if someone was close to them. "My lady, there's a problem outside," Kayla hurried to say those words, with an annoyed expression on her face, anger visible on her features. Just as Leon opened his eyes for a moment, his pressure leaked out, "Woomph," making Kayla grit her teeth as she almost came to her knees, if it wasn't for Leon controlling it in less than a second. Kayla looked at young Master Leon weirdly, as the pressure came from him, but she chose to ignore it, as neither her lady nor even young Master brought it up. Leon, who had made the slip-up, had decided he had to train for at least a month inside the time dimension in his physical form to get used to everything he had learned, because his little slip-up could kill people, not intentionally, but unintentionally. For Seraphine, she wasn't much affected by the pressure, but she felt it clearly. But she knew this was nothing but a drop in the ocean compared to what she had witnessed in the past 6 years of her training. She succeeded in achieving Grandmaster level in Mana Body Enhancement, but for level 2 aura, she was very close to reaching it, but not there yet. She felt like she needed a strong opponent to bring it out like the last time. She looked at Kayla, who looked troubled. They had entered the kingdom of Champagne a day ago, and now their carriage was stopped at the gate of their capital city, Hemsburg, which she could see from the window. "What's the problem, Kayla? Why weren't we let inside the city?" Seraphine asked, her voice sharp. She could guess what was happening. It happened later than she anticipated, as the Duke's son must have been aware of their date for quite a while. He must be plotting something and would be furious to strike. So they made their move when we were in the heart of their territory. Pretty clever, but it won't change anything. My lady, even after seeing your crest and hearing your name, they insisted on checking the carriage, saying they have been given orders to check anyone who enters the city regardless of their rank, as there have been rumors inside the city that around the time of the festival some thugs are trying to cause chaos in the city, from their intel. Even Kayla knew this was bullshit and knew why this was happening. She was a bit worried too, as no matter how strong her lady was, it was not a smart move to enter your enemy's territory with so few of her people. "Should we go back, my lady? The festival isn't important enough to fall into such an obvious trap." She didn't want young Master Leon to become the target of this scheme. Seraphine's confident voice sounded. "Don't worry, Kayla. I know what you're worried about, but I will handle everything just fine." Kayla didn't question her after hearing this, no matter how unbelievable it sounded, as she knew her lady's words were never empty. Leon had a bright smile on his face when he heard all this, as it would give him even more reasons to act against them. He knew he was being targeted, and he was thrilled to know that. As he accompanied Seraphine to the guards, walking on her right side, not behind her, but along with her. Guards were seeing the infamous commander of the Duskmoor, who was feared all over the world, known for being one of the strongest in the world, seeing her unfathomable presence, every step filled with power and grace. Tap, tap, tap. Her boots hitting the stone ground with dreadful elegance. They cursed their luck, as her cold face and sharp eyes told them any mishap, and she would kill them for sure. All the guards had only one thought in their minds, their faces pale. "Who is the fucking bastard trying to make our lives hell? We don't get paid enough to handle this shit." Guards could also see that there was a tall young man with silver-white hair walking beside Commander Seraphine, as if he were her equal. He had a domineering and mystical presence due to his sharp features and mysterious eyes. He also exuded a pressure of authority, just like the commander. They had guessed anyone walking beside Commander Seraphine would not be a pushover either. But what could they do? That was their luck, as this was the same description they had been given for the leader of the thugs who were going to cause chaos inside the capital city when the festival took place. That was the order they had received from the higher-ups. But they knew it was complete gibberish. Who would dare to do something like that in the most secure city in the entire world? Security was extremely tight, especially during festival times. And monsters among humans walked in the disguise of normal people, the so-called awakeners. The city was full of them. Whoever had given the order definitely had some animosity toward the silver white-haired handsome young man beside the commander, and they knew who it might be. The story of the commander and the Duke's eldest son's open announcement to the world was known to everyone. They were stuck between fire and a cliff. Knowing the Duke's eldest son was behind this put so much pressure on them that they had to act, even if they didn't like it. despite the commander accompanying him. They were awakeners, and the guards believed they could subdue him, only if the commander didn't act up. All of them were hoping to convince her with words, because no matter what, she was still in their kingdom's capital city, their home ground. The upper hand was supposed to be in their pocket, not hers. Even though she was one of the strongest people in the world, she had to be careful around here. Seraphine and Leon reached them. Behind them were 8 knights of Seraphine, 5 women and 3 men, all of them with their hands on the hilts of their blades, as they could feel the tense atmosphere emitted by the guard who seemed to be in charge of everyone. Greetings, esteemed Lightning Commander Seraphine. Seraphine didn't even give him a nod, more curious about what lie that scheming bastard, the Duke's son, had cooked up now. The guard leader clearly sensed she was not even acknowledging their existence, but it didn't affect him, as he continued, trying to imitate a heavy voice to let her know the severity of the situation, and also didn't forget to mention the term higher-ups many times during his explanation. Even while he tried to maintain a calm composure, after his explanation was done, the shaking in his hands was a clear reminder of how nervous he was. He explained everything about how the young man beside her matched the description of the thug. He didn't directly say to hand him over, but kept mentioning it was a very high-level order and that she shouldn't make things difficult for them, repeating the same message while trying to redirect her anger away from him. The guard leader was holding his breath, hoping she wouldn't make things difficult for them. This is it, huh? Pretty nasty, but I'm not going to hold back anymore. So, you're saying the man beside me matched the description of the thug you wanted to find. Is that correct? Her tone was sharper than ever, her cold eyes looking at him as if he were a bug. Yee. Arf. The overwhelming pain came before the guard even realized what had happened. His body hit the ground as he frantically moved like a worm. Thud. His right hand had hit the ground. From his shoulder, his whole arm had been cut. The other guards took out their weapons in response, along with the 8 knights behind Seraphine. But the guards' legs were shaking. None of them had seen how their leader, the strongest among them, was now on the ground with his entire arm severed from his body, blood leaking as he clutched it tightly, screaming his lungs out. Arf! Even though their number was around 50, including those rushing there after hearing the scream, not a single one of them had the confidence to face her. Death seemed inevitable if they acted against her, regardless of their numbers. Arg! Bastards, quickly take me to the Church of Life. I will die, you retards. The scream of their leader made them focus on him. 4 guards came up, trying to pick up the leader to take him to the Church of Life for emergency treatment. But they stopped in their tracks, hearing a cold and ruthless voice. I'm still not done with him. The 4 guards froze in place after hearing the devil's voice. They dare not try to touch their leader. They valued their lives. They only showed pity in their eyes while looking at their leader, who was bleeding profusely, squirming on the ground, and screaming. A few days prior, when this mission came to their guard leader, they were jealous, as he was given an advance payment of 50 gold coins before even catching the thug, and promised a promotion and 1 platinum coin after the capture. They had thought the leader had hit the jackpot, but now they realized he was only a sacrificial pawn for the upper nobles. It definitely wasn't a coincidence that this mission came just as the silver white-haired man arrived with the infamous Lightning Commander, knowing their Duke's obsession with her. Please, ma'am. Let me go, I beg of you. I will die if they don't take me quickly. He weakly said these words while still on the ground. His previous demeanor, trying to put up a brave front, subtly reminding her she was in their kingdom's capital, was gone. He could cry it any second. Now, in front of her, only a man remained, begging for his life, not wanting to die. Seraphine ignored his pleading and continued. Do you know this silver white-haired young man is with me? Wasn't he walking alongside me enough to tell you that? Be grateful that you are still breathing. Your earlier words were a direct affront to my honor. I'd say I've even been too kind today. The 8 knights behind Seraphine nodded in unison, agreeing with their lady's words, as she had indeed been kind today. The guard leader, writhing on the ground from the pain, witnessed everything with his own eyes. The reaction of the 8 knights behind the commander proved that she really was telling the truth when she said she had been kind today. He realized that his luck was truly terrible. The woman in front of him was far crazier than he had imagined. Now, all he wanted was to get as far away from her as possible. He no longer cared about catching the silver white-haired young man beside her, who was watching everything with an amused look on his face. The leader thought he was crazy, too. He was dying here, and not one of them showed any sympathy for a dying man caught in this mess because of a little greed. He should have been suspicious when he was offered such a large bonus just for accepting the task. The description didn't match any known powerful figure, so he had let greed overtake his logical mind. He regretted his decision with every fiber of his being now. I am really, really sorry if my earlier words caused any harm to your reputation. Please forgive me. It's all a misunderstanding caused by the higher-ups. There was bitterness in his voice as he mentioned the higher-ups. The young master with you can enter the city without any checks. Forgive my mistake, please. How can anyone with mams be a thug? Just let them carry me. I'll really die. I don't want to die. I'm not even married, why yet? Please. He even used his bloody hand to take out a pouch from around his waist, rather than holding onto his wound, and offered it to the commander, hoping she would accept it as compensation. Please accept this, Imam. The pouch contained 52 gold coins, 90 silver coins, and a couple of bronze coins, his earnings and savings. Seraphine was satisfied with the apology, knowing he was merely a pawn used by the Duke's son and had been caught off guard. He had already paid with one of his hands. Her cold voice sounded again. Okay, you're forgiven for now, but if you ever get in my way again, I will kill you. And I don't need your compensation. The guard leader felt relieved when he heard she wouldn't take the money. That meant he could at least enjoy a decent retirement. But Leon, beside her, wasn't going to let it go. The pouch looked heavy with coins. His hand moved in a blur, and he caught it. He didn't care about the blood and opened the pouch. Just one look at the many gold and silver coins inside, and he knew he'd hit the jackpot. The weight of the pouch gone from his waist, the leader's soul felt shattered. He could see his retirement fund in the hands of the silver-haired young man. It was over now, but at least he had kept his life. Even with one hand, as an awakener with an intact mana core, he could still earn decent money. Seraphine continued, My disciple will take the compensation as you targeted him. Now, disappear from my sight before I change my mind. Thank you, M.I.M. His entire demeanor changed as he glared at the 4 guards standing nearby. Quickly take me to the Church of Life, you fools. Are you waiting for me to die? The guards picked up the leader and his severed hand as they left. The other guards thanked their luck and sighed in relief, grateful he had handled the situation without worsening it. Had he acted foolishly, all of them might have lost their lives. Seraphine and Leon returned to the carriage, while the knights mounted their horses again. Leon discreetly stored the pouch in his inventory when no eyes were on him, and water formed around his hands, washing away the blood. After boarding the carriage, he and Seraphine didn't return to the dimensional space just yet. He knew, from what Seraphine had told him, that the festival would begin in 2 days. Then he remembered something. He had forgotten to tell Seraphine about the existence of the Cosmic Shop and Cosmic Chat. He had to bring it up because rejecting even small coin exchanges meant rejecting causality itself. They were too precious to miss. Seraphine's hands were wrapped around his as her head rested peacefully on his shoulder. Seraphine, I forgot to tell you something about my system. The thing is... He finished speaking. She never thought there could be more to his system than what he'd already told her, because what he'd revealed was already overwhelming. Now, hearing about the overpowered shop that allowed him to buy treasures of the same rank as the ones he owned, using a strange currency called causality, earned by exchanging time, was beyond her imagination. He told her about a certain item that increased mana by 300 after a single use, double the amount of her current mana. And that wasn't all. He spoke of many godly treasures sold by powerful entities. She realized why he had taken the money from the guard earlier. He wasn't lacking funds. If he had asked, she would have given him more than enough. But now she doubted it would ever be enough. Not after hearing how much platinum he had exchanged for only 289,000 causality. That amount alone was far more than the total wealth she owned in coin. But her wealth wasn't limited to money. There were other valuables stored in her treasury, hidden beneath her mansion. Once they returned, she had decided she would exchange everything she had for this causality he spoke of. If possible, she wanted to buy high-level technique scrolls because, unlike skill stones, technique scrolls had no limitations. They could be passed down to different people and can even be stored inside in a paper by a person who had a good understanding of the technique, as the direct transfer was too dangerous a method for average people. It would not only increase their strength, but would also become the foundation of their future empire. Even if they sold only a part of scroll, not even the full version, it would still generate enough revenue and treasure to earn more causality, potentially surpassing the original cost. It was, in her eyes, the best investment, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. She didn't hold back and shared her full idea with him. Leon gave her a wide smile in return, wrapping her in a long hug and kissing her deeply in appreciation of her brilliant plan, making her feel proud of herself. Leon, through the window, noticed the bustling city outside. Duskmore seemed like a village compared to this crowd. People were constantly moving through the streets, and large shops and tall buildings appeared frequently. Guards could be seen every 100 meters along the road. The streets were well made, with lamps placed every few steps. He hadn't seen a single beggar in the city so far, which surprised him. Duskmore, even if few, still had beggars. But the city felt too grand, or was it just a facade? He didn't know. Their carriage stopped in front of a house. A sleek, 3-story house with marble walls, tall windows, and a black iron gate. Golden lights glowed from inside, and a quiet fountain trickled by the entrance, elegant and refined, even in the heart of the city. Seraphine and Leon got off the carriage and entered the house, followed by the knights. She ordered them to relax, to do whatever they wanted, as she didn't need them for now. The journey had been long, and they must be tired. After entering the master bedroom with Seraphine, Leon quickly expressed his intent to enter the dimensional space in his physical body to gain proper control over his newly awakened strength. Seraphine wanted to follow him as well. She needed to adjust her power, too, but her condition was better than his, as she hadn't experienced such astronomical growth. She had become many times stronger, yes, but Leon? She didn't even know. Hundreds of times stronger? Perhaps even more. Transcendent rank mastery in a technique that was far too powerful. Other than adjusting to her strength, there was something else she wanted to do with him as well. Both of them entered the portal and arrived at the familiar place. There should have been tall, rocky mountains everywhere in sight. She didn't know if her Leon had a grudge against mountains, but not a single one remained. Wherever she looked, only their broken remains could be seen. Most of the land, for kilometers around, was littered with craters. It looked like a devastating earthquake had struck the area, leaving behind a scene of destruction. But within a 30-meter radius, the bed, table, chairs, sofa, and bathtub remained untouched by the surrounding chaos. That was the place they used to relax from time to time. Her training also caused destruction, but not to the level of destroying entire mountains or reshaping the landscape for kilometers around. Leon vanished from his spot after saying goodbye and reappeared 5 kilometers away from her, beginning his practice to adjust to his new strength using his real body. One thing surprised him: the vast, unchanging terrain of rocky mountains and treacherous paths in every direction. If he wanted a new training partner, another mountain to play with, he had to travel several kilometers just to find one. 40 days had passed inside the dimensional space. Leon now felt confident in his control over his new strength. He no longer feared accidentally killing someone. Feeling hungry, he decided to return to Seraphine and have dinner with her. He called it dinner because the sky never changed. It always looked like sunset, even though there was no sun or moon to begin with. He still remembered her shocked face when she saw the infinite spoon of soup in action for the first time a month ago. He had tried to use it with mana, which he had never done before. The result was staggering. The amount of soup it produced in a single second increased dramatically. It didn't need mana to work, but with it, the treasure felt like it was meant to feed not just a village, but a town, a city, a kingdom, an empire, or even the world itself. The The speed at which it produced soup depended heavily on how much mana was provided. And with the abundance of mana here, it could already produce hundreds of liters of delicious, nutritious soup in just a few minutes. So, giving it mana directly yielded even better results. After reaching closer to their makeshift home without any roof, he noticed Seraphine wasn't training anymore. Instead, could see her in her sexy nightie, flaunting her curves. She even looked him in his eyes and licked her lips seductively. He didn't care about the dinner anymore, as an even better dinner was inviting him, arriving in a flash in front on her. Seraphine, draped in a black silk nightgown that shimmered with every movement, hugging her curves, slid high enough to reveal the bare line of her thigh. She turned when Leon arrived, her lips curling in a slow, knowing smile. "You're staring," she said softly. "I always do," Leon replied, crossing the room. He slid an arm under her knees and one behind her back, lifting her effortlessly into his arms. She let out a breathy laugh, brushing her fingers along his neck. "So eager, my Leon? I've been patient enough," he murmured, kissing her temple. "Tonight, I'm not letting you rest." He laid her down onto the bed, the silk of her nightgown sliding against her skin as she leaned back on her elbows, legs slightly parted. "Then don't," she whispered, voice low and inviting. Leon climbed over her, pressing her down with his weight, hands sliding up her thigh, beneath the fabric, fingers brushing her warmth. "No underwear," he noted, smirking. "I thought would save time." He pulled the gown up to her waist, revealing all of her. "You're soaked already." Her breath caught. "Maybe I've been waiting all day, wondering how rough you'd be tonight." Leon kissed her deeply, hungry, claiming, and entered her in one slow, smooth thrust. Her gasp melted into a moan, her back arching beneath him. Schlick, slap, slap. On, on. He moved with deep, steady strokes, every thrust deliberate, pressing into her completely, dragging against every inch. "You feel incredible," he breathed. "So warm, so tight." She cupped his face, pulling him in for another kiss. "Then don't hold back. Make me forget everything but you." He did. His rhythm quickened, hips snapping into hers as the bed rocked beneath them. Her moans grew higher, her legs locking around his waist. "Gods, Leon. Keep going. Aang, you feel so good." "Yes, faster. Fuck me hard. Look at you," he whispered, kissing her neck. "Writhing under me, begging without even realizing it." Slap. Schlick. Slap. He flipped her over, pulled her hips up, and slid back in from behind. She gasped, grabbing the sheets as he filled her again, deeper this time. "You like this?" he asked, gripping her waist tightly. "Me taking my time? Letting you feel everything." She glanced over her shoulder, eyes dazed. "I love it. Love how you make me yours every time." Leon leaned forward, lips brushing her ear. "I'll keep going until you forget your own name." Time blurred. Position after position, her body trembled under his control. Legs spread, pinned wrists, her head tilted back in ecstasy, the sound of wet skin and soft moans echoing endlessly. Even when her voice broke and her limbs went limp, her eyes still burned with desire. Until the very end. Her body trembled one last time, overwhelmed, exhausted, spent. She let out a soft moan as her eyes fluttered shut, her lips parting in a final breathless sigh. Leon held her close, his breathing heavy, her body soft in his arms. She had passed out with a smile. Both of them slept together for the night in each other's embrace, peacefully. The next day, they woke up and took a bath together. They had their breakfast inside the dimensional space, consisting of soup from the infinite spoon of soup, beef jerky, different fruits, some snacks, and drinks. Leon heard Seraphine's voice from the other end of the small table as she looked directly at him. "Leon, you've gotten used to your strength. We should be getting out of here now. My training ended a few weeks ago. I was just waiting for you to finish. However, I think we should spend more time inside. There's something important we need to do here." She paused for a moment, a smile tugging at her beautiful lips. Leon didn't interrupt her. He knew her well enough to tell that she was about to say something important, though he had no idea what it might be. A thought arose in his mind. Does she want another fight? But he didn't want that to happen, especially while they were in their real bodies. He was too strong now. He didn't think she would be able to put up a fight at all, unlike before. It wasn't that she had become weaker, quite the opposite. She was many times stronger now, but it was just that he had become too powerful. Still, he let her finish. We're going on an exploration mission to find a piece of land perfectly suited for our future empire. What? Future empire? What are you talking about, Seraphine? What future empire? Leon asked her, confusion written clearly on his face. He wanted her to explain more before he said anything. Just because he had such a large space, one whose size he didn't even fully know, didn't mean he intended to bring outsiders here. Seraphine ignored the caution written on his face. She was sure that once he heard her full idea, he would never dismiss it, because of how foolproof her plan was. Leon, you have the dimensional hourglass and the spoon of infinite soup. So let's think of it this way. After she finished speaking, she remained silent, a confident look on her face, her head held higher than usual. A small smile graced her lips, exuding assurance in her idea. She didn't even think it was a hard idea to conceive. Implementing it was the harder part. Besides, the only reason Leon hadn't thought of this himself, despite having all the pieces of the puzzle, was because of how cautious he was. Leon was hooked by the first question she had asked him. Do you think I would even be able to get out of this place if you didn't allow me to? And the answer was no. She would never be able to unless he opened the portal himself, which meant that anyone who came inside was basically his prisoner. No one could leave unless he allowed it. That wasn't all. She had also pointed out that time here moved 1,000 times faster than outside, and said, what if we left only a couple hundred people here? In 1 year outside, it would be 1,000 years in here. That was more than enough time for a new civilization to be formed from scratch. But in their case, they would be guiding and helping it grow from the shadows, making the process faster. The main problem of food was already solved by his overpowered treasure, the infinite spoon of soup. And even that wouldn't be needed forever. As civilization grew, they developed their own methods of food production. The perks were endless. He could have thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people under his command. In here, he would be like a king or an emperor to them. Only those he deemed worthy would be allowed to leave and help him in the outside world. The idea alone made his breath hitch slightly from sheer excitement. The possibilities were limitless. The sooner he started this mission, the better it would be for him. He also now understood why she had told him to buy techniques from the cosmic shop before anything else. Besides the fact that incomplete versions could be resold to gain more causality, and that both of them could use them, she had hidden the fact that those techniques could become the foundation of their empire. He couldn't help but shower her with endless praise for 5 whole minutes. He knew, given his cautious personality, that he wouldn't have come up with this idea for years. He might have had the idea eventually, but she had saved him a massive amount of time. His Seraphine was brilliant. Seraphine took all the praise like a champion, smiling gleefully the entire time, and even made him repeat the praises she liked the most. Both of them got up from their seats, ready to depart to explore what lay beyond the vast, rocky mountains. Let's go, Seraphine. I'd be much faster if I did it like this. He stepped closer to her and picked her up in a princess carry without warning, making Seraphine slightly surprised for a second. Then she wrapped her arms around his neck. You should wrap your body with your aura, just in case. His voice was serious as he said those words. Seraphine did as she was told without question, knowing how much of a freak her disciple really was. It was definitely needed for her safety. She even felt another layer of lightning aura wrap around her. Her eyes trembled slightly upon realizing how close it was to reaching level 2, just like hers. She didn't know he had achieved such results in aura. But it didn't stop there. 2 other unfamiliar auras wrapped around her as well, making her slightly panic inside. She had been training far away from him, so unlike the beginning of their training, she hadn't witnessed how far he had progressed. The only reminder of his strength was the tremors, like earthquakes she would feel from time to time. Even if those 2 unfamiliar auras hadn't yet reached level 2, they still reminded her just how monstrous her disciple really was. holding 3 different auras when most people struggled to master even one. Leon had noticed the shock on her face, but he didn't say anything and only found her adorable, as he had thought she had gotten used to being shocked by him. But that didn't seem to be the case. The mana inside his body surged through every part of his body as the transcendent ranked mana body enhancement was at work, filling his body with endless strength. But he didn't just stop there, as the lightning energy inside his body traveled through various intricate patterns. No flashy ripple or thin strands of lightning element moved around his body like in the Grandmaster ranked version, but only a single golden thunderbolt symbol appeared between his temples. He was careful not to release any of the natural pressure coming from him as he used these transcendent rank techniques on her. His practice over the past 40 days didn't go unnoticed, as she didn't feel a thing, but her senses told her that her disciple was unfathomably strong right now, as she gazed at the golden lightning symbol between his temples. She knew he was using the transcendent rank Rajan's descent technique. Knowing how difficult it was to reach the Grandmaster rank in mana enhancement technique. Even with her previous years of training, it had taken her 5 full years of training. It might as well be called 10 years, as in a conscious state, she didn't need any rest or sleep, and the transcendent rank felt too far away. She couldn't even put a number on how many years it would take her to achieve it, because of how big the gap really was. Leon smiled faintly and asked her, "Are you ready for the ride?" She was not nervous and nodded her head at his words, as she knew he would never let her get harmed. In the next second, the ground beneath him cracked. With the booming sound of air pressure, Leon's body launched forward, with Seraphine clinging tightly to his neck. He had made sure to steer away from their makeshift home. Otherwise, everything might have been destroyed just by his launch alone. Only a few seconds had passed, and now Seraphine, in his arms, couldn't even register how fast they were actually moving. Everything was just a blur to her vision. Leon stopped, which made Seraphine a bit confused, as only a few seconds had passed. Why did he stop? They couldn't have gotten far. She looked around and only saw his devastation everywhere. Craters all over, mountains reduced to crumbling rocks, 1,000-meter-long sword strikes on the ground, meters wide and deep like cliffs. She could only see darkness inside them, unable to tell how deep they went. She knew it was his training spot, which should be around 5 kilometers away from their home. She looked back, but couldn't even see their home from this far. It was hard to accept they had traveled so far so quickly, but it was the truth. Her Leon might be even stronger than she had thought. Traversing 5 whole kilometers in a couple of seconds? That just sounded unreal. Hang on tight. The ride ahead might be a bit bumpy. His calm voice sounded in her ear. She naturally tightened her grip on him, but she was still trying to process the feat her disciple had just performed. Leon was already using the wind element to cancel out the pressure she would feel when traveling at such speed. He could easily make her avoid feeling any bumps. But how could he miss such an opportunity to see his master's bountiful breasts jiggle naturally? Even though he saw them regularly and felt them thoroughly, this was a different feeling he couldn't miss out on. His spatial awareness, 50 meters around him, was enough to see every movement, even with his eyes closed, so his focus was only on her chest. Once again, he began traveling at his ultra-fast speed. Because of the terrain, its ups and downs, he had to make small jumps from time to time. He couldn't help but make Seraphine feel the bumps, as his eyes were glued to the jiggle of her softness. After 2 minutes of lightning-fast travel, Leon finally had to stop. The Rocky Mountain Plain was much bigger than he had anticipated. He had traversed around 250 kilometers in a single direction to reach the end. Seraphine, who had tried to look at the world around her while he was traveling, but failed to see a thing because of the speed, finally looked ahead when they stopped. From high up, hundreds of meters above, she could see in front of her an ever-stretching grassland. As far as she could see, there was only grass, no trees, no animals, no rocks, no mountains or anything else. Just endless green. Even with its weirdness, as in the real world, seeing something like this would have been impossible. It still looked beautiful. Leon, isn't it beautiful? Yes, Very beautiful, Seraphine. Despite looking unnaturally alone, they agreed it was indeed a beautiful sight, especially from so high up. He couldn't help but bring his lips closer to hers and give her a long, romantic kiss while she was still in his arms. Seraphine loved it. After the kiss, they stayed still for a while, enjoying the beauty of this unnatural sight. She noticed a rough pathway leading downward. She knew it wouldn't even be a challenge for him, and she pointed it out to Leon. "Leon, look, we can go down from there." He didn't even glance in that direction, as he had already seen the pathway. But he didn't need it. When such a beautiful way to go down was already in front of him, why bother with that rocky terrain? He jumped down without any warning. Seraphine panicked at his sudden jump. Her eyes shook in shock. They were more than 1,000 meters above the ground, a height she couldn't even compare to the mountains he had destroyed and boasted about, as the biggest one he had told her about was only 800 meters tall. "Calm down, Seraphine. Just look around. Isn't it beautiful?" His soothing voice made her heart settle. The first thing she looked at was him. His long silver-white hair flowed with the wind, the softness in his gaze as he looked at her with those mystical eyes, his sharp features, small nose, inviting lips, an extremely handsome face. She couldn't help but be in a daze for a second. "It really is as beautiful as you say, my love, perhaps even more so than you realized. I can live my whole life just looking at this sight."